What's up, everybody? This is another episode of the Keep Going podcast. I want to say I appreciate you all so much sticking with it and being along for the ride. Today, my guest name is Mr. Tylor Traxler, or Trax as we all know him. He's been a hustler and an artist as long as I've known him. Met him back in my high school days. But I'm blessed to bring this episode to you. We dive deep into art, what it takes to be an artist, the different types of art, business mindset, personal beliefs, how to live a good life, amongst many, many other things. But also at the end, there's a little bonus where he breaks down 2 art pieces, and we get to go really deep into meaning, interpretation, feel, all types of things. So I think this is one you all will really enjoy. I really appreciate him taking the time to not only have a great conversation, but also break down some pieces. So, as always, keep going.
Dude, I was thinking about this shirt this morning, actually. It's crazy you wore it.
Didn't Chase draw it?
Yeah. As I was thinking about his art specifically in this potential weed project, like design-wise I could do. And I was just like trying to think of all these artists I know. And Chase, of course, is like amazing.
What's his last name again?
Duncan. Yeah, we hung out probably a couple months ago, 3 months ago. Him and his brothers were here. Or I don't know why, but
They don't live here anymore?
no, they live in fucking Minnesota.
Is that where they're from?
No,
The
Chase-
brothers just chose?
Chase just moved there, and because he had a job opportunity with his homie, and moved there, and then just hit his brothers up. We're like, y'all come move with me if you want, and they did. So,
Wow.
yeah, they live in Minnesota.
That's crazy.
I think it's Minnesota. Yeah, because Chase was working retail somewhere at because he's like retail god at Mall of America, I think.
Yeah, because he was like a man, like not manager, but someone in a higher position.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Has he always been an artist? Because I have
He
something.
was the first artist I knew.
I think not the first one I knew, but he laughs about this because when we randomly come across each other on social media, I'll tag him. But I have a sketch of Allen Iverson that he did. Now that I sketch myself, I like realize how cool it is.
Yeah.
That he sketched this Allen Iverson just in our math class
Really?
and handed it to me because I told him I liked Iverson, and I still have it. I got it as a junior.
Wow.
But it's like pretty legit. And now when I look at it, I'm like, damn, he did that in 20 minutes just off of me telling him that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't realize how gifted some people are. And he always laughs that I still have it. He's like, why do you even have that? And I'm like, bro, you drew this cool ass Iverson photo in like minutes.
Yeah. His work on the iPad now that he got that tool is really fucking crazy too.
That's where people get really good at the drawing. It's like, what's it called? Procreate?
Yeah. I don't have Procreate, but I have like a similar program on my iPad. It's the pencil though. The iPad pencil is so fucking good. Like it's
What
like a
makes
perfect product.
Why does it make it good?
It's just like super intuitive. It's like you can do everything that you can do in Photoshop, but you can do it with everything with a pencil, which is just like whether it be turning a dial or filling a space or drawing a node or a line. Like it's just really intuitive.
The thing I notice when I see people sketching on videos is they can highlight an area, fill it all one color, do like a staircase type, not emblem, but drawing, and be able to like copy paste that a bunch instead of me and you having to do it over and over. It's kind of interesting. And I bet it's good for those people that knock out a lot of art because they have this screen and they're not having to, use paper and stuff, and they can just get so in depth in it. Yeah. I've seen the ones where they'll zoom in really deep.
Oh, it's like an infinite zoom?
Yeah, and they zoom out and it's
crazy.
like picture. I'm like,
fucking crazy.
You wouldn't think that digital art is that crazy. But the fact that it can zoom out like 30 times and it's another picture, and then it's a horse, then it's a mountain, then it's unreal.
Dude, yeah, I really enjoy watching those. I've used it for I'll use it for like color reference. Like I'll upload a sketch I did and then I'll color it in just to see how colors mesh and whatnot, and then I'll paint into that realm. But I haven't really uncovered like the depths of the digital art as a tool. I need to. There's just so many ways like you can do your process as like an artist. And
What's
nobody's
your preferred method? Paint?
Yeah, I love painting. Painting's dope.
Is it more like, because I see your style and things like that, is it more you just start and just go where it takes you, or do you have a plan, or what?
That's probably the number one question people give. Yeah, all my stuff is pretty organic. You can kind of tell the ones where I do pre-planned. Like these two big ones that we're looking at, for example, those are like pre-planned ones that I'll like draw out first and just kind of, then it's basically just kind of coloring. But
what's that process is drawing out? Like you sketch it on a piece of paper a couple times or one time or what?
It depends on it. Like for this one, I used reference out of like a fucking like magazine to get just the way this dude's like sitting at a table. Like I just really like
almost
that.
lean back a little
Yeah. It's like using reference in creative ways. And then, it's basically just coloring after that for me, especially on those where it's like just that mosaic kind of patterning.
There's so much pattern though.
Yeah.
It took so much.
It took a long time. Like I was working on 3 or 4 and I'm always working on multiple. It's never just focusing on one because you just can't. Like
so you find yourself getting not bored, but you find yourself getting kind of like mentally tapped out on one and you'll jump to something else.
Yeah. That's why all those are like up on the wall like that. Cause when I do get bored, I'll just move on to the next one or literally things have to dry. So like you'll have to do like layers of white.
Simple things.
And that's the difference is like oil paint, for example. Oil paint takes days, weeks, I think, to dry. I don't use oil. Acrylic, it's dry in 15 minutes, So you can edit your mistakes a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know exactly because I haven't painted with it, but just my experience with it a little bit is, it's fucking, you make a mistake, you're blending or fixing it in a way. Well, acrylic, it's like, okay, I fucked up, cover it up, do it again.
You can just let it dry.
Within the same session.
Do you prefer acrylic for that reason, or is there another reason you? So is there another reason you should choose it? Okay,
there's like when I first started painting, people would tell me that because of the way Renaissance painters all used oil and I guess it's like a very masterful way of painting because of those things, and you can charge higher prices.
So if there's levels, like oil is a higher, or like a more pristine level of art.
Yeah.
In their case,
I thought that. And then when I went to Marfa, I was talking to this artist who's like really prolific and she's really popular.
What's her name?
I forget her name, dude. It sucks. But Jerry Saltz, who's like the biggest art reviewer on earth, was there.
What's his name?
Jerry Saltz. He's legit. He used to be like a truck driver. He's really interesting to listen to.
That's interesting.
And found his way because he's like a failed artist. And then he was just like, I wrote about art a little and everyone responded to it. So I just became an art writer. Now it's my art. But he's got cool opinions, but he was in Marfa that weekend and she had just gone and we just got to talking about, and I had brought up the idea of like oil paint versus acrylic and instantly I just saw her kind of like tense up where she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh, you use acrylic. And she's like, yeah, I've never heard that before. And I was just like, oh, well, I mean, I have. I don't know if it's true and I don't adhere to it, but I mean, I'll use anything, bro. Like if you go in spray paint, pastels are a new favorite. So like a lot of these, none of these have pastels on them because I hadn't really discovered them yet. But a lot of that new stuff will have soft pastels, hard pastels. Because I like to use them because you can smear them. So it'll give things like an ethereal look. You can put like a veil over things.
Oh, because you can almost cover what you have on the canvas without because it's kind of transparent.
Yeah. Okay. It's like a powder. So there's all these little fucking techniques. And like that one has like plaster on it. You can tell by like the wall texture of it. Like, so I'll use anything. I mean, you saw the American flag. I'll use anything. And that one's
pretty cool.
I like it a lot.
So let me take it back then. Cause you started, from my experience, and I may be wrong, when I saw you get into the art space, it was first with the clothes outside. Yeah. Is that how it started? Was the clothes first?
Yeah. I was working at AppMix. It's like a gold coin trading place in downtown. They're a big business. Yeah. Fucking weird.
When you were in high school?
No, that was my first job after college.
Oh, okay.
I got offered like jobs I couldn't get a job with my degree. It was an energy economics degree, which you think you'd get a job, but it just wasn't working. And I took that job. It was like $12 an hour, but it was supposed to turn into something that was much bigger.
But $12 an hour 10 years ago was different too. So
yeah, it was a little different, definitely, especially compared to today.
Yeah, because I'll go to even for Oklahoma, you'll go by a fast food place like when you're driving and you can see like 14 or 15 an hour. And I know that's not enough because of how high it is to live. But when we were kids, like $10 an hour plus was like almost making it.
Yeah, you were getting minimum wage. Like I worked at Dunkin' Donuts my freshman year of college, and yeah, it was like minimum wage.
Oh yeah, $7.25 or whatever it was.
Fucking scam.
So you're at that coin place.
Yeah, dude, and I got bounced around. So I don't know. That's when I first developed like my disdain for like the corporate world, because I was like, yo, I'm in here for 8-9 hours. Dude, there's not 8 hours of work to do. Y'all are not giving me 8 hours of work. Not that I necessarily want you to, but I'm so bored. Like I was working in marketing, but I did learn how to do like digital marketing at that point. I learned email marketing and how to write copy. And I don't know, it did teach me how to be more like structured and analytical. A lot of these people in that business were, and it's very like competitive, like running these Google banner ads and things like that. But
yeah, because you were talking about that first as the SEO tools and all of that. But that was years ago.
So I got to learn that. And then I asked for like, I was like, I want to do something else. So I went to like accounting and that was kind of cool, but it was.
So like bookkeeping?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly what I was even doing in the accounting. I think it didn't last long, but after, you know, maybe I went accounting, then marketing, but either way, I worked through those and then I got called into the dude's office and he was like, so we've got a couple options for you. He's like, you can go to the vault, which is literally a fucking huge underground vault where you
with
just
all those coins,
you sort coins. Like you just sort people's portfolios of coins, dude. And it's like dark. There's no sunlight. Like you're literally in a vault underneath downtown Oklahoma City. And I was like, man, and I'd worked down there for the holidays at one time to like, for like peak demand. And I was just like,
what's the peak demand? People order more coins?
Yeah. Like, yeah, in Christmas, you know, they're buying gifts. Or if something crazy happens in the economy, people will like balance their portfolio with gold or silver or palladium or whatever the fuck, or a new coin comes out. Clearly I'm not interested in these things.
So you didn't want to go to the dungeon?
Didn't want to go to the dungeon. And in the meantime though, I was developing outside. Like I was designing t-shirts on the job. And yeah, I had the guy who's like basically offering me this trip to the dungeon, also saying like, yeah, we noticed you're using company time to do this and do this. And I'm just like, when did y'all notice that? Were y'all just like watching over my shoulder? Like, that's had to be what you were doing. And he's like, yeah, basically. And so I didn't take that and just basically bounced.
And this is right after college.
Yeah, I worked there for like a year right after college. So that would have been mid 2016 to mid 2017.
Okay.
And
that's when I was getting into real estate. So it's like same timing.
100%. It's like a lot of people were discovering their next phase at that point. Yeah. Or getting stuck in whatever phase, you know, but that's the time I was still living in Edmond. So I just went back to serving. That's when me and Shay started working on Outside together. Shout out to Shay and,
sweet dude.
Awesome. I love Shay.
And Chase. I mean, they're all connected.
Yeah. We all kind of work together in these little ways. But in that time, so I learned designing t-shirts and branding, and I was also obsessed with the startup culture at that time because it was just, so I had like my own newsletter I was putting out with people where I was just like making profiles of CEOs, and you know, I had like 80 people that like wanted my newsletter. And
what do you mean profiles of CEOs? Like breaking down CEOs like habits and stuff, or?
Yeah, or what I liked about them, or I'd watch an interview with them and then just give commentary and a thing about them. And
I bet that helps you. Well, it's natural that you were doing it and then you turned it into a newsletter, but I bet that helps you like absorb things more. Cause sometimes I'll listen to something and if I'm not intentional, like I may forget. So if you're looking at it and then having to write something out, you're breaking it down a little more. Like when we're in school and you have a story of, you know, these details you have to remember. So that's actually pretty cool that you were doing that.
It was high. So in college, one thing, my senior year, I fell in love with my strategic management class. Like I thought it was, that and antitrust legislation were like my top two, like just amazing classes that I loved. And I was really good at business strategy. So it was natural for me to then, and at this time, Outside was not a clothing brand. I was designing solar based products. Like I wanted, if you've ever heard of the company Goal Zero, they make like, remote, like solar panels and generators and all these
fold
things.
Out. And stuff.
Yes.
So Outside was first solar
power. I wanted to incorporate them with clothes, or I wanted to make these products. I wanted to get involved in renewable energy. I had an energy economics degree. I really wanted to like get involved in that space. I still do. But talking with one of my mentors one time, I'm just like, yo, I'm trying to do all this stuff. And I'm talking on the phone to like manufacturers for products there's no way I can afford, just trying to learn more.
Oh, like just talking through the process like you are going to do it, but actually
I'm not. More info. I can't. Yeah, I'm just like interviewing these textile companies that don't even like now these different things like photovoltaic thread, for example. Like,
what is that?
It's a thread that can conduct electricity through like silver coatings on them. And so I was looking at these and making these, just all these designs for products I wanted to make. And I wanted to make it like the Apple of like the tech and outdoor kind of infused world. But I had my mentor, I was describing all these problems. I was like, how do I even get to where this is possible? And blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, one thing you're definitely going to need is marketing. So he's like, you're already good at marketing, so you need to make merchandise. And he gave me my first little tiny chunk of money to go make merchandise.
Wow.
And so
Where'd you find this mentor? Because I don't think people understand the importance. I saw this post that said a mentor's, what is it? Your mentor makes his hindsight your foresight.
That's,
so how did you find that mentor?
I was lucky. I was in a fraternity.
Okay.
And so I had, one of my really good friends, Robert, his dad is this person I'm talking about.
Okay, cool.
And he, just really, I don't know if he saw something in me or he just saw ambition, but he guided me through the leadership positions I went through in the fraternity. Yeah. So there's a lot of book balancing in that. Fraternity's a business. And so I went through this whole process and, we went at it a few times. I was in a judicial board position. I was in the vice president position. And so when he saw me moving towards this next realm, he always just guided me, and he's a very savvy business person.
You still have a relationship now?
Yeah, we don't talk as often as we did, but I'm really close with his son.
But that's what it's meant for, is those chapters. Mm-hmm. Like even my mentors, we don't talk every day. The point is that they get you from point A to that next point quicker, so you don't have to have all those talks. You have all those ones up front to really push the envelope. The fact that you had a mentor at that point and they highlighted your strength and helped you kind of turn on
it. Yeah. It was validating in a way, or it just it was somebody around to tell you that, quitting that corporate job is okay. Like there's other paths in life, and just opening that idea, because so many people would have just gone to the vault. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And if you go to the vault, that's fine. There's good people down there, but it's
but they had to be real pale skinned and glasses.
You know what I'm saying? The vault lizards. The vault lizards. But man, yeah, he was big. And I mean, he became more, they became more, that family became an extended family of mine. They really were good to me.
And they're leaning on merchandise. So is that when you lean on the t-shirt? Cause was it t-shirts first?
Yeah, it was just basic t-shirt designs. A lot of them I still have
too. You had the t-shirts and you had some other products.
Oh, bro, I had t-shirt. I did have a full line, but the original ones were just t-shirts.
Just t-shirts.
And I overbought, dude. I remember that was my first mistake. And I made the mistake several different times where I wasted money on it. I bought, why the fuck did I buy 8 2Xs in this order? I don't even, they're just not going to sell, or buy too many smalls, or not buy enough larges. It's just overbuying, spending a shit ton of money.
So how old is this shirt I have on?
That shirt is from 2018.
2018?
Yep.
I got a nostalgic shirt. Okay.
You do, for sure.
It's one of my favorite because I remember it was the first piece I ever bought from you. Mm. So I remember you said, hey, check out my website. And you sent it to our group chat, mm-hmm. which is 15 years old?
Yeah,
and
high school.
And when I ever check my storage, on your iPhone, the mm-hmm. storage from our group chat is ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
all
of the images. Just
sending them back and forth. But I remember ordering this shirt and being so happy about it. And for a long time at that point in my life, because I was in college at the time. So most of my stuff was athletic wear. This was one of my shirts I'd wear out. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
I'm this is my nice shirt. I'll wear that when we're going out and about. But I remember when I wore it a few years ago, you were like, man, I haven't seen that one in years. So to know that I've got a t-shirt that's 7 years old, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And for it to be so
great
early,
too. Looks brand new.
Try to keep contained on it.
Oh, that's the organic cotton.
You can break it down.
Oh yeah.
But it fits good for a large. So, but you always made that with your clothes. They were always a good quality, a heavier fit.
Yeah.
Even with your stuff now, I don't know if it's probably more of a term for people that are into clothes, but heavy is a good adjective for t-shirts and things that are they feel more, I guess, better quality.
Yeah, they're heavy, and typically it'll come down to that thickness you feel, and that weight of it, I think, is related to the GSM, which I forget exactly what it stands for. It's something per square meter, maybe
but
grams.
It just feels better with the fit, and then the reason you're saying it looks good, because I've worn the shirt a ton.
Right.
But if you take care of it, the cotton, because you see stuff you do buy that's cheap, and you're the one that taught me this, which is hilarious, is I'll go to places like a art show or a music show, something, right? Mm-hmm. And I want some merch because I'm like, man, I really like that artist. I want some merch. And then I look at their shirts and I see a lot of gilding. I'm like, I'm not buying that.
Right.
I can't spend $35 on a shirt that I'm going to wear once and it's not even going to fit me right.
And God, and on them, a lot of these people won't even remove the tag. At least remove the tag and fake it.
But it's just sitting there huge. I'm like, gilding? And then you feel it and before you even put it on,
scratches
you
you.
can know like what it's going to feel like.
Like sandpaper.
It's just crazy that that's like a normal thing. Because after you showed me that, which was probably almost 8 years ago, because when I bought this shirt, you're like, no, it's a good cotton. Like, look at these. Because you were showing me other stuff. Like, we were going through all this list of clothes. And like the amount of people you see with that product, even to this day, is crazy. Like, I remember buying a shirt from a clothing brand that I like. And I have other pieces that aren't like this, but one of them was like a Gildan. I bought it for the piece I needed it for. So it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's not one I wear a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, you don't realize like the little things. So when you're talking about the startup with you, I know you said over ordering and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you stick to like that quality? Was that always something up front? Is you're like, no, I want it to be a good quality and this with a good message? Or like,
really, it came from that obsession. Like, I was into the renewable energy. I was into sustainability heavy. And so my first search was like, at that time, if you're on Instagram at that time, that's when like travel photography was really huge. Okay. And now it's like way saturated. But at this point, there was just a few people really doing it right. And the brands they were promoting and watching. And I got really obsessed with, like Patagonia, like as a company. And so like researching all these things that people are doing and diving into like the regulatory bodies that like develop these fabrics, and it's a whole thing, and just studying brands, like obsessively studying brands and wanting to be like them and emulate them in a way.
And you think your marketing helped you with that you knew what to look for? Because say I was studying those brands, I could look at certain things, but since you're more on the marketing side, you can stare at these brands and analyze them and be like, oh, well, they did this, this, and this, and it worked. This did. This did. This did.
I'll tell you it's going into their like on every product page when you're shopping, they have product details. Take the product details and compare and run comps like you would in real estate,
Oh, shoot.
And so it's like, okay, they have this sleeve length differs from this sleeve length in a way. I want a happy medium between these two. So, X amount, what's the middle, and that's how you can make something unique. Like you clash to and take like the gray area, or like these, I'll try to find where they get, and these things are all far more, there's so much more education and Instagram people talking about this game than in 2016 there was fuck all. There was nothing, dude. Like,
well, you were one of in Oklahoma, you were one of the first people I ever came into with a mindset of like that entrepreneurial with the clothes. There were a couple others doing it, but there wasn't a ton. And the ones that were doing the clothes, it wasn't like they were as locked in. It was more of like the cheaper quality, like you were saying, to where you were always kind of set on the better quality. Like,
and a big thing too, I had this crazy, like enlightening experience. I went to, so I dive into the clothes, right? I make these t-shirts, but I know that at some point I'm going to and I still haven't gotten to like full cut and sew yet, but I know that I'm going to want to move towards this. So instead of buying blinks and printing, sew your own shirts.
So you would just have like a roll of cotton and make shirts?
That's how you do it at the highest levels.
Or so they just have the raw materials at the highest level.
Yeah.
And then they're patching it together themselves.
Yeah. And that's when you get like economies of scale, and cause you'll cut your costs, cause you'll be buying in humongous amounts of bulk. Like Patagonia. And then I think they have like, proprietary fabrics and things. So then it gets even further. Can you own your own dye houses? Can you own your own, the spin houses? Like there's so many levels before the product gets to like the customer. And that's why, especially in like, you come to understand like designer prices and stuff like that, it's because when it's true craftsmanship and it goes through these, and the supply chain, like you could see it at every single step where these costs get added. There's a brand called Everlane where their branding is radical transparency. And they were the first company when I was coming up where they would just they would on their website put out, at this step, we add this cost. At this step, we add this cost. This is why. This is where it came from. This is the travel cost. Like, this is the packaging cost. Like, and then here's your final cost, and here's what you're paying for. And that radical transparency, like, they blew up because of it.
So it was a good thing? It was well received?
Oh, yeah.
I bet.
I still me and Sarah buy their stuff right now.
What's it called again?
Everlane.
I'll check it out.
But all their shit's too short. Really? All their shirts are too short. It's really annoying. Maybe I have a long torso.
No, but I have that problem with shirts too.
It's weird.
Yeah. And, well, for me, joggers too. They're either too long or too short.
Yeah.
Like too short, you can kind of get away with, but too long, you can't because they bunch up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm big on fit, which you probably are too because you design your own clothes.
Yeah.
So I bet if something's a little off on the fit, you can tell. So when you realize that about the designer stuff, Did that make you appreciate those type of products more, or because
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like yours is
It did.
like really custom, so it's not. I don't know if you classify it as designer, but it's like on that type of realm. I feel like.
Right. But yes and no. I don't know, because designer holds like a lot of like connotation with it. Really, like I'm a designer. It's designer, but it's like
100%.
But, you know, there's a lot of companies that are, you know, doing really advanced, like, you know, craftsmanship. And I don't want to act at some points that I'm moving at like, you don't want to lie about what you're doing. You don't want to act like you're making this Italian amazing sourced from like crazy cow hides and things when you're not. Like, not that I'm doing that or whatever, but
Would you say clothes are overpriced though on some of those brands, or is it reasonable?
there's definitely like bullshit markups with it too.
Yeah, that's because, I mean, I feel like there has to be with $100 white tee or a $200 white tee or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. But if you get into like really advanced, like nice Supima cottons and like you make a perfect
type of
shirt.
cotton?
Supima.
What makes that nice?
I think that might, and I'm not
Like
100%.
softer?
Yeah, it's just a better quality. Like I think along the whole supply chain of it, but I got kind of introduced to these. I went up to OSU one day and I was going to like they have a small business like development center up there, and I was going to
This is
talk.
post-college.
Yes.
Okay.
Working as a server at this time. And I go up there and, I just start kind of getting obsessed with clothes. I don't even think I've put anything out yet.
Okay.
And I go and, that's kind of cool. And they talked to me a little bit. They didn't really have a whole lot for me. I don't know what I was really looking for, maybe just resources, but they had said something about you need to go to the college at OSU. They have like a sewing floor. They have a whole like fashion design college. While at like at UCO, they only had fashion merchandising. They didn't have fashion production. At OSU, they have production, which makes sense because they're like an agriculturally based school.
So that's more on the raw material side. They can take the raw material to a finished product.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I go there and I just walked up in the school and just walked in the building, and there's just sewing machines and students, and you could just see the whole process. But I had gotten a meeting with the head of the textiles at OSU at the time. I believe she was at one point at Northwestern University after this. And then I don't know where she's at now. I kind of keep up with her on LinkedIn, but yeah, I had like a meeting with her in her office and just told her what I was about. Had kind of the same conversation we're having about, here's my values. Here's what I'm trying to bring to it, blah, 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 blah. And from that point, when I saw that, I was just like, dude, I'm like a clothing brand now. Like fuck the solar products and whatnot. That's something that I can tackle in the future. For now, I'm going to be a merchandise brand and a lifestyle brand. And just ran that up from, till about probably like 2020. Like I was just, the lifestyle brand. And the issue with that though became, I don't really want to live this lifestyle, like it was hard for me to be like this outdoor, I didn't want to be a granola brand. And I kind of found myself,
What does that mean?
Save the planet, a lot of the things that we do value, but in the marketing to me, it just was like cheesy and I wasn't living that life. So I was like, this does not feel true anymore. Like that collection that you're wearing of the shirt in like 2018 was probably the last outside collection where I was like, I really enjoy this, like that time. And I was like, I just got away from it. It didn't feel authentic to me anymore. So at that time, 2018, same time I made these, was when I was like, okay, I'm now in love with branding. I'm now in love with design and creativity. And, a lot of the strategy and things like that had kind of left my like psyche. I didn't like the same things anymore. I changed. Now I like straight creativity. Is the beginning of being an artist. So I was like, I need something with freedom, because now I feel like I'm in a box. Like I feel like I'm in the outside. I'm not outside the box anymore, dude. I'm like locked in my own prison, and I'm like getting into streetwear and, fashion. And I'm like, but I can't really get that off with this brand in this in the current way I have it set. So then,
because it was more on like, from the outside looking in, it was more on the Patagonia side.
It was outdoorsy,
where it's good products, sustainable products, and that type of culture.
And that is what I set out to do. So I accomplished the mission, but then it became inauthentic to me. So then I pretty much stopped doing it, and I started Within and Without. Mm-hmm. And Within and Without I didn't have a logo until literally this year. Yeah. So from 2018 to now, I didn't even have a logo. It was nothing at the end of the day. But it was a free, just a free canvas where I could explore streetwear, and and that fusion's happening at the time when Virgil was coming up, and Kanye and Yeezy and all these things. So it's like big into the culture, and I'm just obsessed with it at that time. And so I really wanted something where I could just get my art practice off and like explore ideas within and without as a hermetic principle. And so I was exploring base level spirituality ideas, and I was like, I need something to document my life. And that's what it taught me how to be an artist. It felt more authentic. I was making really interesting products, I found. And, I was like just wasting a lot of money with outside. And so like I kind of put it on the back burner. I was like, I'm going to do this right now. And, that's spun into everything today.
When did you get into the painting from the clothes though? So when you got into with and without, you got more creativity and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to this type of art now. Or was it because you were painting on clothes that you're like, I can paint on a canvas too? Or what was it?
So my the painting change came, I wasn't working. I was helping out essentially, not getting paid, but that's fine. You don't get paid for a lot of these, especially in the creative realm. But I was working at this studio and,
like an art studio?
Yeah. The show you would come to remember when I did basically this in here at that one big studio in Capitol Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all came to that and you cashed out with me that night. And
I remember you were packed with people.
Yeah.
Like you were like, hey, I love you. I'm so glad you came, but I gotta go. And you had to like help someone else. Like I remember I got Rachel a hoodie and then me a shirt with and without.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like you were packed that day.
Yeah.
Like it was
that night was the beginning of this store ideation.
And that's what, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, that was like probably 2020.
So 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Cause that was okay. So you have that, but then it's transitioning into it.
Yeah. After that, the guy that runs it's like, hey, do you want to like help me with this art show? The NFTs were coming up and VR was becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, we curate the artists for this art show and whatnot. And like, we work together on it. And
so you go around the city and pick artists for it?
Well, yeah. And there was a little ecosystem and community around there too. So it was kind of plug and play, but he was like, bro, you should paint a piece for this show. Like you should put something in it. And I was like, dude, I've never painted in my life. And I had never painted in my life at all. Not on clothes, not on nothing. Wow. And he was just like, you should, paint this piece for the show. It was that size. It was, 2 foot by 4 foot. And it was on a piece of plywood. I went to Home Depot that night and it was like $7-8, bought some spray paint and that's it. And then I put it on some sawhorses. I was living in the pool house, Ricardo spot in Heritage Hills at the time. And
talk about being an artist.
Oh yeah, dude. And it was, that whole time in my life was like a very entitled time where I like, but COVID allowed for that, that freedom where it's like, it's kind of cool to not have a job right now. Nobody has a job. Everyone's fucked up. Let me be that. And it became a part of my psyche, unfortunately, but it allowed for these free times to do these things.
Yeah.
And so I just remember looking and it was 4 a.m. and I woke up and I look through this doorway that leads to this other doorway on the other side of the staircase. And that piece is sitting in there on these sawhorses. And I was like, dude, I just feel like I should go in there and make something. So I just spray painted and gassed myself out with the spray paint and made it that night. And
I'm picturing you, so you're spray painting inside?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. It was I'd never cared about gassing myself out with that. I was just always just creating and making, but yeah, it turned out really dope. And I took it and I put in that show. It didn't sell, but like everyone gave me a lot of compliments and it was kind of that like thing that I was kind of looking for maybe a little more like creative, like peer respect. Like,
yeah,
I had a lot of artists in there that were like, dude, this is really dope. And I was like, thank you. And
well, it is not, I think that's a huge step in any discipline is when you get some respect from your peers or some validation. It's not like you're searching for that only, but it does give you a really strong boost, whether it's real estate, art, cooking, hiking, your branding, whatever it is. When you get like that little nudge of positivity, it really helps.
Yeah. It propels you. It allows you to keep going, like,
and to trust it.
Yeah. And
keep going. I mean, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Big branding. But that piece.
That's why you're the best at it.
You know what I'm saying? 3 weeks ago, that piece sold to Mike Muscala. Walked up in here.
The plywood one?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
That one picture you posted him,
yeah.
You said, hey, do you know him? I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, dude.
He bought the plywood piece?
Yeah. He was just like, I didn't know who he was until he Venmo'd me. And I saw his name and I was like,
well, you thought he was something because he's 6'6", I guess. Or
I was just like, this is a big white dude, but he had a backpack on just walking around. You know how many big white dudes with backpacks are walking around this area? So I'm just like, but it was cool though. I'm glad that didn't happen.
Where's he from? Did you ask?
I think I did. I don't remember.
Polish? I don't know. That name seems...
I feel like he was American, but I think he was, but
his parents weren't.
We did have a good but we were talking like God, like we were talking about...
How old is he, our age?
I think he's 33, 34.
So
yeah.
A little older.
Yeah.
That's crazy that he bought your first piece. Did you tell him?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, he wanted another piece. He was asking about another one and I just said, but this one is like real special. And then he's just like, name price. I named it and he was like, cool. And it was like really awesome. But that painting, then after that, I went back to Home Depot and I bought bigger ones. I bought 4 foot by 4 foot ones and I bought like as many as I could. Borrowed my mom's car because my car couldn't fit them.
This is at back in the house still. When you're in the pool house. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Just want to stay on track.
Yes. And so I just started knocking them out, bro. Like all day, every day, I'm spray painting in there. And this dude hits me up and he's just like, follows me on Instagram and he's just like, dude, these are really dope. Like, again, he was like, how much? And for this is 4 foot by 4 foot one, heavy birch wood. And he's just like, how much for this? And I was arbitrary at the time. And then in that moment he asked me, I was like, damn, like this is going to be like the starting price for my work, like blah, blah, blah. And I was just like $1,000.
Okay.
And he just, no questions asked, just bought it. And I was like, holy shit. That's fucking crazy. I'm like,
and you made it off plywood and Home Depot. Not saying it's not valuable.
No,
it's just crazy that you took that raw material.
Right. And being business dude, I'm just like, oh my God, this cost me
$14.
Yeah. It's like negligible in a way, but it just showed me that intrinsic value that's in putting your expression out. And I remember I borrowed my mom's car again to go deliver it to him. And
wow.
My mom pulled up and she saw me loading it up and she goes, Ty, I think this is going to be really big for you. And I was like, I don't listen to a whole lot of people's advice. Obviously my mom is one of them. And I was like, why do you say that? And she was like, with the clothes, it's just different. She's like, you have so many inputs you're dealing with. She's like, you're dealing with models. You're dealing with photographers. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with this, that, blah, 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 blah. Name them. There's so many, all these different levels of what you're dealing with. And she was like, this is just you. You don't have to count on anyone else. It's just you.
Yeah.
And when she told me that, I was like, dude, yes, that's it. Like this is nobody, there's no one to blame. There's nothing. It's just you and this piece of fucking wood, dude. And what you do with it is what you do with it.
It gives you so much ownership. And it speaks testament to your character though, to be able to handle that. Because in business as an entrepreneur, which that's all you're doing full time since you got out of college is being an entrepreneur pretty much. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with like the gratification and then like the downfalls. So you're dealing with the huge spectrum of the good and the bad. So the fact that you can see that and you're like, no, I'm okay betting on myself and living with my results. Cause that takes a lot. That's the reason we're talking about it before and earlier in this is like the 9 to 5 gets a hold of everyone, which there's nothing wrong with people that have got a good setup and do their thing. No. That's normal life. But for people like you and I, that really doesn't fit the mold. And you're okay having all this risk just because it gives you a better quality of life. So the fact that you can, one, have someone you care about and love give you that, but also to already have it internally, I mean, you're special for that. Because like to have this type of setup is not easy. To have a studio, to have an art business, like a branding, it takes a lot of hard work. So you sell your first piece, you take it to her.
That guy ended up buying 14 pieces from me. Like,
damn.
Yeah.
He was like your number one.
So what's even crazier though, this guy, shout out to Chase. Great dude. He works with me at Stella and he was the bartender at Stella. So whenever I needed to go back to serving, I hit him up and was like, well, can I come work there? Like, what's it like? He's like an OG there. And it's so funny. Him and his girl both work there and his girl was like, it's crazy that I see you here every day and every day we wake up in our apartment and there's enormous pieces of yours just surrounding us. It's like so crazy to like know the real person behind these art pieces.
14 is a lot of pieces.
He bought a lot but I was making pieces on like driftwood, like shitty wood I'd find outside and like small, anything at that point. And he was just like, I really fuck with your style. Like, it's just like, it's very like seriously unserious. Like it was, but I
sent you, sorry to cut you
you're
off.
Good.
I sent you those pictures when I was in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Those were dope.
And when we go together or when I move over there and you come see me, I'm going to take you there and introduce you to that lady because her art was so similar to yours. She's very involved in the community there. I'll have to look up her name from my Airbnb app, but as soon as I walk in, I'm on this Europe tour with myself and my wife, just having fun being a hippie. You know what I mean? Just enjoying life. But then I see this art and I instantly think of you. I was like, Trax, look at this. This is like you. This could be you.
I remember it being very beautiful.
And I'm like, that's cool to kind of piggyback on what you were saying about them knowing the person.
Yeah.
Like it makes me feel blessed to know you with that. Cause then I'm around the world and I see this and I think of you.
Yeah.
And your art is doing that to these folks.
Right.
So you got a lot of validation from not only peers, but this Chase guy buying all these pieces.
Yeah.
Like, even though you've been hit with a lot of roadblocks, it seems like there's been a steady influx of positivity to kind of keep it rolling, you would say? Or
right. Yeah. And I think that, what I'm actually kind of thoughts I'm interfacing with right now in my day to day are forms of like support. How in times I have leaned so heavily on money as the only form of support, when in reality, like it's like count your blessings, truly count them. How many ways are you being supported? I'm being supported by kind words. I'm being supported by ability. I'm being supported by money. But energy, like all these things that form the holistic picture of support to carry you forward. And when you need it, people tend to, and I was listening to this guy speak on the guy I had sent to you.
Yeah, which is good, by the way. I started listening to it.
Amazing. But what he talked about money is like, dude, people look at it like it's the only form of support. It's just one of many. It's one of your many blessings. And yeah, I've gotten so many of them along the way from all kinds of different people. Like at times when at times when I had money, a lot of money, relatively speaking, I still needed a form of support. I still needed kind of validation, and I still needed, you needed more. And there's a whole picture that's painted with your blessings, but you have to like, just be aware of it. And right now I'm working through these kind of ideas and like trying to remain positive and put my focus on other things aside from money. Because this has never been about the money. Everything is kind of about the money, but not everything is only the money.
Well, I feel like people don't understand that. There's a lot of people that do. And I've told this story a million times, but I was at an investor breakfast and this guy was like, what changed it for you? And I said, when I stopped looking at deals or opportunities or houses or clients or whatever it may be as a dollar sign, when I started looking at how do I solve this problem? How do I get it to the finish line? And how do I get as many of these as possible where I'm solving problems over and over? Then business boomed. But before, when I was like, man, this is only $1,000. This is only $3,000. Then I'm stressing and the dots aren't connecting.
Right.
But then when I take a step back, even though money is important, I understand that same way you do.
Yeah.
But the other support is almost more important. Like the fact that you can text me some inspiring words, or our inside thing that we do is inside, outside, but our inside thing is we could not talk for 6 months. And then I'll wake up to a text from Trax and it's just a good song I should listen to.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, or a book.
Yes.
Or the Instagram profile you sent me. It's cool because that's like our validation connection with each other is like, hey, here's some positivity. I thought you would enjoy it too. Or, hey, this song really got me in a good mood. Try this. And what's funny is the range.
Yeah.
Like it'll be Gangstar and then it'll be
the one you
Jungle.
sent me. Yeah. Jungle.
Yeah. And I'm like, people wouldn't even think these are the same two human beings, but it comes from all that support because you don't know how important it is. Of course, the money, but on the other side, when you just need a little pat on the back, like I know in my relationship, randomly Rachel will say something like, thank you for this. And it just means the world. And you don't even really think you needed that. Or someone like Muscala will say, oh, this is a beautiful piece. I want it now. And you don't even like think how much your heart needed that. Just that little validation. Or when you had us over here, or even me just being here as a guest and I'm looking around your workspace and I'm just looking at your art and telling you how much I enjoyed it. Like even that, I mean, I know you have it as a business, but even if it wasn't, you still get a lot of love from it.
Right.
So maybe that is a form of what it's meant to be, whether it's the type of stuff I do or you do is it's like, yes, doing it for the money, but also doing it just for the good energy of doing it. Because you're very passionate about these things when times go, bad and good.
Yeah.
So I wonder what you would be like if you didn't have this expression outlet.
I thought about that a lot, and I think about it in like a very like gracious way of like, thank God I have it.
Right.
And it leaves me feeling, bad for people who don't. Like, how are you experiencing creativity? Because to me, it shifted focus from like, okay, just expression. And then it went into this mode of like, okay, I'm seeing that through my style. I'm feeling very childlike. This reminds me of that. And then I went away from that, and that got me to spirituality. And then, that's kind of base level stuff of like, everyone is just trying to like forget their programming, and you're like closest to God when you're a baby and when you're an old person. Everything else in between is like trying to get back. And when I realized that and like was interfacing with that, that's what all this became, was like, how many ways can I like, again, interface is my favorite word because that's what it always feels like, is like you're just talking to God, you're working out your inner thoughts, you're commenting on things you've learned, you're listening to music while you do it and letting that influence it. There's just so many inputs, and there's so many allegories for life as you're painting. Like the one that always comes to mind, what I described to you about like acrylic paint. It's like, oh, I fucked up according to what my expectation was, but like I'm not on, like this isn't up to me. Like, so I can cover it up and start again.
Yeah.
And that's just like one example. I feel it a lot when I'm like making very bold lines on like the pressure, and like they just like, I don't know, they just fit these allegories for life on all these little subject matters that you're dealing with when you're really into a painting. And
how do you feel when you're hitting those moments? You're saying it's like life. It's like life. Like when you have that bold line, what are you feeling? Like, this is important. Let me not fuck up. Like, what are you feeling?
No, it's very like, to me, the art is more about how much can you let go? And not how much can you control. It's the only time you really get to let go. Everything else, we're like subject to a system. Nobody can tell me shit on the canvas. So like when I'm in those moments, I'm like, oh, this is the time to just like let it be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then when you go into your daily life, or like I'm interacting with just my day to day, and they're in the store, it's like, let me not try to exert so much control over this and see if it ends up as beautiful as a painting would,
So like when you take off the pressure and you still produce like a really great piece of art, you're like, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I didn't have to, because I find myself in various aspects of my life trying to be too controlling.
Yeah.
Sometimes like either I'll be speaking to myself, or Rachel will come in and help me when she's like, hey, we got to kind of take off the reins a little bit. Because we were talking about it before we hopped on here, that we live with a lot of intention as far as our health, our mental diet, all these things, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes you got to take a little off. That doesn't mean that you can slack on like your values, because it helps you live a better life. But sometimes everything doesn't have to be exactly how you thought. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
And I mean that in a good, humble way. Like sometimes some will come up and it's like, oh, that was meant to be because I wasn't meant to do it this way. Like, oh, I got a flat tire. I guess I wasn't meant to go to that 4:00 appointment. Something, I was supposed to go do something else.
Right.
And you'll have these random moments where it's imperfect, but that's actually the perfectness of it. Like I noticed it a lot more when I got more and more spiritual as well, is like everything has a reason, everything has a meaning. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize like who you run into, who you have a quick conversation with. When a homeless person says something positive to you as you're walking by, you're like, man, that might have been God. You didn't even know.
Mm-hmm. It is.
That guy, that one homeless guy me and you talk about with the pretty eyes. You know what I'm talking about? It was like greenish eyes. You told me you'd seen him before.
Yeah.
The other day I was walking to county to file a document for a house I was purchasing, and he asked me for some money or something. I didn't have any. And I said, but I've met you before, and I'm glad you're still doing all right. And he was like, thank you, man. I hope you have a great day. And of course he needed what he needed and move on. But I'm looking over at him and I'm like, man, like, I don't know what this is meant to be, but it's meant to be something.
Right.
Like I keep seeing this guy, or, I mean, you just never know how important something is. Like you wake up at 4 a.m. and paint that plywood, mm-hmm. but then you sell 14 pieces.
Right.
And then you're working at Stella and they're telling you how happy they are to wake up and see your pieces.
Yeah. You got to follow what like excites you. Like, and another thing that I'm always big on when I do talk to other artists and things is like that posture of surrender. Like,
what do you mean?
Always being in service to something bigger than yourself. For me, it's God. For others, it might be their family. And it's all of those things. You know, it could be anything that puts you in a place where you're smaller than what you're undertaking is important. And I think that that's where a lot of people lack, because if you're not in like service to something bigger than yourself, it's kind of like you don't, to me, in my experience though, I don't have, it's hard for me to have a base form. That's not a moral claim. Like, I think people have morals and can develop ethics in a lot of ways, but it's like, I think I had in a painting one time, I wrote, surrender is love blended with mystery.
Damn.
Yeah. You surrender to the unknown. You accept that there's things you can't control, but you love the pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's almost like an adventure spirit. Like,
yeah. And that's that place where it puts your mind of like, okay, this isn't so serious. Like, just, I don't know. That's just what you have to take into these things for it to really become, for me, I call it like a divine art practice, where everything is attached to something bigger than myself. And I just think that maintaining humbleness within reason, I mean, I'm a hyper like competitive person as well. So I actually like move back and forth between these two poles.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. It's just that feeling of of being in the presence of God and feeling proud of when you create something that's worthwhile out of that position of surrender and that posture of surrender is great. It drives everything. It allows me to continue to create. And then when you find inspiration from things that are eternal like that, you'll never run out of shit to paint. Like, I'll never run out of ideas.
What do you do when, I know you're just saying like you won't run out of it, but when you get into maybe a dead spot of your creativity, and that may be a strong word, so I'm not trying to,
I know what you mean,
mess it up, but when you're at a lower point of your creativity, are there certain activities you do that re-spark it, or do you wait for inspiration? I don't know about like that artist mindset. Yeah,
I think inspiration, you're definitely like an antenna, and the inspiration is like a frequency.
Okay.
So like you have to do that's why the full art practice, really art is, your whole life is the art. So like, in order to match the inspiration or the excitement of that, you have to take care of your body. Like you said, we're health conscious, we're mentally conscious, we're developing our spiritual beliefs, we're, forming families, you have to do those things. Again, be in service of these things that are bigger than you so that your vibration can match where the inspiration comes in, because it's going to come in. But if you're not even on the plane to receive it, if you're fucked up mentally, like, and I've been at that spot where like, it's just not working. But a lot of the time so those things are basic, but then what kind of really, it's just create through it. Like, if you really don't feel inspired, dude, go to the canvas. Like, that's just the option. Like, there's no other option but to work through it. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the War of Art and the Art of Work, these books I've read are just big on like becoming professional. And like the pro doesn't act like, and I've realized that about myself, where I feel like I had that shift about a year ago, even with the painting, was like the difference between an amateur and a pro. Like, amateurs, they can make those excuses. Amateurs can, find other things to do.
Yeah.
The pro treats it like it's his job. He treats it, he goes to the canvas and paints regardless of you got to do things without the expectations of the outcome. You have to do it regardless. And if you're tired, you got to paint. If you are sick, you got to paint. Like, all these, if you're sad and depressed, go paint. You'll make fire art. It always happens. Or if you're super happy, go make it. Like, you just got to paint. Like, that's the difference between, in my experience so far, of like perceived success and non-perceived success is like, dude, I'm in here painting, dude. People are like, why aren't you like filming your process? This dude, because 45 minutes later, all I've done is set up a tripod. Like, I'm not painting. Like, there's nothing that I can show you that's going to better make my art received than it just being true and good and focused on.
So you hit on a big thing with that on like the pro mindset, because whether it's a professional athlete, a professional in the business world, what you're doing, I mean, that's such a cool mindset. Like,
Yeah.
even when I don't, like, I wouldn't have even thought about that. Cause for me, art, I sketch a lot. My wife paints. I paint some. I fell in love more with the sketches. Kind of a mix between normal sized pieces and smaller pieces. Cause I remember you saying Niven likes to draw on like the small scale.
Yeah.
So I've messed with that too, where I had a grid paper and did a bunch of tiny things. But I usually use it more as an outlet. Like when I've had a long week, I may take a Saturday when me and Rachel are chilling at the house and I don't have as many calls going on and be like, no, I'm going to just sketch for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it brings me all this joy. But then to think of you as a professional, it's like where you switch your mindset and you're saying, no, even on my bad days, I paint because that's my passion. I'm a professional artist.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, to me, it's a couple things. One, it's impressive that I know someone that's like that because that's really cool. And two, it like even inspires me to think, oh yeah, well, when I'm having a bad day and I don't want to dive into real estate, like I need to make sure and continue to be a professional and keep going. Just dig deep a little bit because I have never talked to an artist that brought that up. Like, no, even on my bad days, I'm doing this. Because most artists I've talked to, which I haven't talked to enough, that's why I wanted to speak with you, is because not only are we brothers, but we have different lanes we're in. Right. So it's cool to pick your brain on it. But you would think artists are more, like I said, going with the inspiration. So they're painting now, they're not painting now, they're making music now, they're not making music now. Mm-hmm. But you're saying there's like different levels. So there is that level where you're just invested in it. So you do it when you feel good. But then there's like that, no, this is a way of life. So even when I'm doing bad, I'm doing this. That's so cool. Cause maybe now when I'm looking at your pieces, I'm going to see different stages of you that I wouldn't have noticed first.
Absolutely.
Like different
They're
emotions.
like time capsules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this one right here, there's a Bible, there's a sack of weed, there's a wallet with change, a Topo Chico bottle, a pack of minis, a grinder. You could take that for just, there's a flower with its roots. The flower with the roots I'm giving to Sarah. The Bible I'm reading and studying while I'm smoking and like sitting in this dingy studio. I'm wearing some fresh ass shit while I'm like, have all these symbols around me. Like, I don't know. That's how it fit. That's literally me in my studio. That's literally at that time. That's literally me looking out a window, you know, and those things, and it changes. Then I had all that inspiration at that time, but then I went through a period after that where there wasn't that inspiration.
Well, cause that's a pretty bold piece and it's big and it's on like a roll up canvas. That's hard work.
I did that.
You had it like tacked out, right?
Tacked up in a booth in North Park Mall. I had made all these big pieces, a 10 by 10 booth that I paid an abhorrent amount for what it was, but good people and lots of inspiration and good time to focus on these pieces. That's why they're so like focused, detailed. But
that's crazy to think of, like all the ups and downs. So you sold those 14 pieces, but now you're talking about you had a store at the mall for a little bit that didn't work.
This is my 5th studio. I've been in a house with no electricity. I was in a gigantic warehouse last summer. Where else was I at? I basically got kicked out of the pool house too and had a painting to finish for an art show called Artini. And I painted in the park at Heritage Hills. Like I was painting in the park and I had nowhere to go. I was waiting for I was starting my relationship with Sarah, but I was like waiting for Sarah to get home because I had nowhere to go. And it's like that day my mom pulled up and like saw me painting in the park and is like, "We'll cry with me in the car." Like that shit happened. And you
stayed strong. You're like, no, I really believe in this.
Yeah, dude. I had to and then, and this is where that hyper competitiveness and kind of jadedness and chip on my shoulder I do have towards
like you can't quit now.
Yeah. Like I have all it just comes from I really went through shit for this. And for example, I had a studio person I shared a studio with recently, like that told me, and I've seen him even make the ethos before and some of the other things I've seen him talking to people. Like he literally said to me, "You're not a real artist if you don't do it full time." He said that to me while I'm surrounded by like 60 pieces of art I have and he has none around. And I'm just like, he's like, "Sorry, you're not a real artist if you don't do it full time."
What constitutes full time though? You're not clocking in.
Exactly. It's fake. It's an ego mind that is saying, "This is what I believe. This is what I'm telling myself. So I feel like a real artist. I'm going to tell others they're not because I don't feel like one."
That's self-projecting.
Yes, dude. And there's a lot of that in the creative realm. And there's a lot of that with these people out here. And dude, I just see through it. And I've gone through phases of internalizing it, and I'll take it to heart on some of these things. And I'm like, this guy said this, or this guy said this about my art, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, but what can they tell me? Like, what can anyone tell me about my experience with God? Cause that's what they're trying to exert influence over. I'm just like, or you can't tell me about what I'm painting. Again, it's me and the canvas. You can't tell me shit. These organizations can't tell me shit. Like, I don't know. I carry a chip on my shoulder. And again, it's tough because I am a spiritual person who does want to remain humble in these ways. But then I also want to help artists because I feel like I've been through those 5 studios. I've painted in the park. I had nothing. And, I still struggle on some day-to-days now with whether it be money or inspiration or whatever artists face. But, I am basically using myself as a market tester to create a new system outside of what exists for artists, like in specifically Oklahoma City, but I'm sure it's across the board. It's like,
what do you mean for Oklahoma City?
Because in my opinion, I think that elements of the establishment use artists as a tool for their benefit. And I don't know of a whole lot. There's a few opportunities, I'm sure, in the city, but to me, overall, artists are not the beneficiaries of the empowerment. Nobody's saying, so to me, that's saying, okay, there's not inherent value in this art outside of a tool to raise money. So for example, a lot of people make money. A good way to make money as an artist is, hit the nonprofit sector. They'll donate 70% of your money to this organization. And I participated in shows where, okay, this year the option is keep 100% of your money, but you don't get a ticket to the show. Okay, whatever. Then the next year it's, okay, you can keep 50% of your money, but we're capping it how much you can charge. And it just goes down and down and down until the point where the past year, I'm not even applying to these things because it's like, there is no opportunity outside of that. And then the galleries, and the galleries are taking 40 to 50%. And I understand that business. It's all good, but it's like, no, man, no, you don't deserve it. It'd be different if you were giving me 40% of the value. Do you market me? Do you interview me? Do you make content about it? Do you do a real in-depth analysis of the show? No, you put it on a wall
and say,
come to this
auction or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, that has a space. I am looking for more ways to help and give back to the community in these ways in the nonprofit sector to cut selfishness out of my life. That is a good thing to do, I think. But when it appears to be the only opportunity, it's just again, the artists are not the beneficiaries of the empowerment. There's no one just saying, hey, here, apply to this, and here's a really big chunk of space or money or something that an artist truly needs to excel. It's no, we're going to give you the opportunity to make 30% of your painting's value so we can make money as a nonprofit. And then,
which is tough because you gotta kind of think what's important at that moment. You're like, well, okay, well, maybe I'll get some marketing from it. So you do it.
Yeah.
But then you're saying no, but I'm actually not getting a ton of marketing. I'm getting one piece moved and I'm getting 30%, but that's not longevity. It's not like they have a show every week and you're getting 30% every week. That's different.
Right.
But even 30% of what you created is a tough pill to swallow. Because you think it'd be switched where the artist is getting compensated correctly instead of just being more of, I guess, just a shiny object.
Yeah.
It's the little terms.
It's the ethical optics of, oh dude, you're going to give 70% of that to yourself and only 30 to the charity.
Wow.
That's not necessarily wrong. I think it should be kind of reversed to where, the artist does take less if you're operating in that realm. My problem is there just needs to be there needs to be other opportunities. The only opportunities we are being used as a tool. So for me,
here's this nice dinner. Look at these artists.
Yes. And but here's the thing. You do have to go through a period, and I'm still in that period in certain ways, where you take advantage of the opportunities you're given.
Yep.
And you work with them and do the most you can with what you have at that moment. And nobody's wrong for that, but I just want there to be a system where artists can be helped in the way that I have had to help myself. So for example, how do you teach people how to merchandise themselves? How do you teach people how do you have them have a divine art practice where it's tied to something bigger than them? Is anyone even spiritually mature enough to like pursue that? Like, how do you get an artist's mind ready for what they're actually undertaking?
Yeah.
No one's speaking to the real needs of artists. Like,
what are some of those needs that stand out to you, you think?
The ability to merchandise yourself.
Which is more on that marketing side you're talking about, or what do you mean?
Well, for example, you could learn how to make your own prints. If there was an opportunity for artists to like have access to a creative zone where they could make their own prints, and someone showed them how to screen print, and someone would be like, no, you have intellectual property in these paintings that you can take out of them and put onto clothes or put onto merchandise. And then you just have other revenue streams, and you can help them to build a business. Artists need that knowledge, money, and space. I know that because that's what I need. And when I did my show in Lubbock, they have a system set up in downtown Lubbock that's really dope. And they have nonprofit ties into it. But one thing that really stuck with me is they have all these I stayed in an apartment above all these artist spaces. These artist spaces are like $700 a month with everything included. And there's a lot of programming built around this area. So for me, they even have it better than me. Because for example, when I'm opening the store up, it's just kind of a shot in the dark every day. You know, it's just like we're marketing. All my marketing is going to drive the foot traffic. There, it's like, okay, this ecosystem is bringing people, the city is bringing people in, and these organizations are bringing people into this realm. Now all the artists have to do is throw up their door, and they have a live workspace. And so they're basically what's in there. And they have this live workspace.
But it's like a collective, like the restaurants here, but it's like
artist booths.
It's an artist booth. So you walk in, you got 20 artists.
But really they lived and worked there. So consolidation, like that's what people.
$700 a month for your live and workspace.
Yes. Like it's a true,
less stress.
Yes. They need that. Like, and you know, having a serving job, it's a lot, you can have a lot more like disposable income when your things are consolidated and like the leases are cheaper. Yeah. And so like in the long term, this is kind of what my next phase, I feel like, is developing this kind of ecosystem to empower artists in a real way that like is outside of the norm in the realm. And those things aren't bad. I don't think it's bad that people are giving money to charities. Like I think that that's great. But to me, I just feel like all these systems are not giving real opportunities for people to grow. You have to be an entrepreneur. You have to be a businessman to make it pop like that. Or just be exceptional. And let's just face it, most of us are not exceptional.
Well, even if you are, because I think you are exceptional, but there's so many. Like it's not saturated, but there's so many artists. Yeah. There's so many real estate professionals. What are you going to do to set yourself apart? So I see what you mean. It could get tough in that area, trying to figure out. Do you think that's something you see yourself doing, like creating a space where there's all these live workspace, and not that you're just in charge of all that, but you create it, and now you got all these artists under you where not necessarily you'd be the mentor for each one, but you're giving them that hindsight to push them forward. Like, here's what I went through. Yeah. Here's your space now. Here's what you do. Because merchandising, if you do go the business route, you even go down to, well, this is your most popular painting. We're going to do a bunch of 8x10 prints because they're only $25 and people will buy them. And then we've got coffee mugs, and then you've got this, but then here's like the original. So you got like all these realms of it, instead of someone like, no, I'm an artist. I paint every week and I haven't been really selling stuff. You can turn it into not only a business, but like a passion business.
Right.
Where you're merging the two.
Right. A divine art practice, something that's tied to something bigger than yourself. You're working towards a great purpose to where you could form what your big version is of your career. You know, do you want to move into public art? Do you want to move into fashion? Do you want to move like that freedom to develop? And, you know, that's something I didn't have. And I feel like a lot of people like are probably experiencing that. They're hyper creative and like want that, but they don't see a way forward with the current opportunities. And I would like to create that. To me, it's like it's a pseudo district, you know, these arts districts, all they have is galleries. That's what makes them an arts district. But really what should make them an arts district is that the economic output of it. That's real. And I guess that is a little bit of gallery, you know, that's a part of it, but picture a central community space where there's hella printers. There's a lot of great like art printers, screen printers. There's, I don't know. It could go to any depth of anything you can make merchandise for. And there's just computers that people can use and market, or there's content developers that are housed out of there. And like, there's a coffee shop. There's all these things that allow these things to grow that are central to it and can actually help and build it. There's an art supply store. You know, there's all these things that are in the center of the district and the artists live around it. There's programming built through exhibition halls and in a gallery that moves through that. So it's like an ecosystem that's like self-supporting in a way. It doesn't have to be an official city district because I don't even know what that entails.
Well, instead of just like a white gallery style with just art in it.
Yeah.
Because that's appealing to some people. But if they've got that ecosystem, someone that's only interested in the flow of art, like seeing an artist's work, they're going to go to see that.
Right.
Someone that wants to buy art is going to go see that. Someone that just needs to hit the art store is going to go there. Someone that just prefers that coffee shop. Or, you know, culture is a combination of the conversations you have. Like the more times you talk about something, it builds your culture. Mm-hmm. So if they're in that art district, a real art district, where they're waking up and living and breathing art with other artists, it's just going to compound. It's like when, you know, you lock into your work time. If you go to other people that are locked into their work time, a space where everyone's doing it, it just kind of compounds.
Do you care if I go pee?
No. Here. Cool. And we're back. But no, I was talking about like that ecosystem. You're saying having that basically a live workspace like you have, but on steroids where there's multiple artists.
Yeah.
And it made me think of something, and I may be wrong because I'm not an artist myself to an extent. I would say everyone's an artist, but
me too.
On the culture of artists, because like we know like Barrett, he paints, you paint, and you all both do music and do a lot of other things.
Right.
But is there separation in the artist community or is it collaborative?
I think for some it is. I haven't experienced it.
So you've experienced more of the solo?
Oh yeah. And I've tried to analyze it. There was a time when I was probably like toxically like lone wolf.
So like you were just against collaborating?
Yeah, I just didn't see the need. There were like, it's like, how do you collaborate? You know, it's definitely cliquey, dude. It's like high school never ends, you know?
Really?
I mean,
it's like in everything. Cause even real estate, there's a lot of people that collaborate and those tend to be
right.
The more successful folks, the ones that are easy to work with, work well together, those type of things. But then you have like these lone wolf style people that may still be successful in their eyes, but don't really give or receive great energy.
Yeah.
Because I'm more of an energy guy. So I think that if you were more collaborative, it'd be more pushing it forward. So on the lone wolf, as you see that there was no benefits to collaborating, like what's the point?
Kind of, yeah. Or just like, dude, I'm just like on my journey. Like I don't have
energy for no one else.
Yeah, and I mean, then I have tried to analyze myself as like, man, are you being selfish about this? But then I'm like, okay, I actually do collaborate. I don't view it in the same realm, but like, you know, for example, me and Niven, we collaborate a lot. Me and Brandon collaborate. Me and anywhere I have a show, we're collaborating. So I was collaborating. I just wasn't doing it in the way the others were, or I was doing it with my own small little group, very small group, maybe 2 people, 3 people. And, you know, I just, there's establishment around here.
What do you mean by that?
You know, the people that are in the art shows. It's
always the same.
The people that are in, they might be Paseo people. They might be Plaza people. They might be weed industry people. You know, there's all these different like types of people in the opportunity. There is a bad problem, I feel like, with artists as far as like gatekeeping things. There's public art. The public art realm is what really put me onto it. Was, you know, I just noticed it's the same like 6 people getting all the public art projects in Oklahoma. So I had an opportunity to like work with the state on a project that unfortunately didn't come to fruition, but the whole working through that public art and like really analyzing what's going on and how the bids are happening and seeing how it's getting distributed through the city. And I was just like, dang, dude, like it's so gate kept, like heavily gate kept. You know, no one wants to, and especially it is so hard to uncover opportunities as an artist that when you do get one, you are kind of incentivized to gatekeep. And
like I always get this spot at the Paseo. I got to keep it.
Yeah, but then it's like at this point, you know, what do you when you absorb that kind of lone wolf mentality, or you really just focus, that's a bad, probably even way to put it because it sounds so negative. Really, it's just being focused on yourself and your career, like, and focusing on the opportunities you can create with what you have instead of, kind of depending on others.
Yeah. Because I noticed that too when you're trying to team up. Like, if there was too many hands in the pot, then there's sometimes all this talk but no action.
Yeah.
To where it's
really
like
diluted.
Even sometimes in the real estate realm, I can see, like, okay, we've all been sitting here talking about a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be acting. We need to be doing this. So I can imagine, especially in the art realm, where it is somewhat more free-spirited in a sense. It's more, I'm doing my passion. I'm living my lifestyle.
It's so personal.
Yeah, so I feel like it could be even more combative or time-wasting. Like, it could just be us talking shit to each other for 5 hours about what art is important or things like that, instead of pushing the envelope of, well, let's collaborate, and there's 5 of the best artists in Oklahoma City putting on this project. Yeah. With no gatekeeping, with no higher-up support, just doing it.
I'd be down for that kind of stuff, but it's just like, what does collaboration even mean? Like, you want to paint on a canvas together? Do you want to come together to support a cause? That's the way I feel like I want to do it. Like, in the future, it should be done. I've had people tell me, like, with things of me opening the shop in here, like, of people feel a type of way about me being competitive and stuff. Like, don't be competitive. We should all be a community. All these people work together. Traxler, why don't you work together? It's like, if
these are conversations that you actually have.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, if there's so much inclusion and there's so much great collaborative effort going on, why haven't I ever experienced it? I've been doing this for almost 10 years. Why haven't those opportunities kind of fell into my lap?
Those same ones that you see at the same spots all the time. Like, why haven't they brought me in to do a project?
Or that's a little bit of my ego. You got to be able to check yourself and be real.
Yeah, and I guess how I worded it makes it seem that way too.
But that is what it is. And at the end of the day, it's like, really nobody's going to care except about what you're doing but you.
100%, no matter what it is.
Right, that's just life. This is all just reflections of life. And
that's the crazy part of talking to you about art is all of our conversations go into that life mode. But it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Like, now we're talking about art, and we're just seeing all these similarities to life.
Yeah.
All these, whether you're talking about the crabs in the barrel, whether you're talking about just positivity, or passion, there's all these levels, but it just coincides with our daily life too.
Right.
So it makes me feel like the better you are for Traxler, the better you're going to be in all these other avenues.
Right.
So it is, like you said, it's like, it sounds negative, but it's actually better to never forget to focus on your journey. Because you're right. You're the only one that cares. Like, when I think of these dreams of mine, like, you talk to your friends, me and you talk about a lot of dreams, and it kind of puts fuel on them to keep going into it.
Right.
But at the same time, you're not going to come back to me and be like, hey man, you said you were going to do this and this, and I haven't seen anything. It's been like 10 years. Like, of course, in a friend mode, since we are so close, you may bring up something, be like, hey, are you still working on this? But no one's going to care the same. So I think you also have to double down on what you care about too.
Yeah.
Like, you have to really care about it. I mean, I felt that way with starting this podcast is I just want to care to continue to do it. Like, you have to, because it's not like someone's telling me to do this.
Yeah, you got to stand for something. You have to have values, and they have to be articulated, and they have to be fleshed out in your work, in my opinion, because that's what's going to give you that unique perspective that a lot of people do lack, because they're not able to tie it to their life. They view the art as a separate practice from the relationship with their girl, or from their relationship with their parents, or like the childhood trauma. Like, it's a way and a tool to interface with that. And I just feel like if you don't do that, or if you don't surrender to something bigger than yourself, you will eventually have to face yourself. And like, that can be traumatic for some people. That can be very difficult, or literally impossible for some people. Like, And, you know, and I'm not going to say, it's hard for me to say that obviously not every artist is going to have this perspective. There's so many fucking ways to be successful in this realm, and there's no straight path forward. But,
which probably makes it appealing.
Right, yeah.
Because there's so many ways you can make it.
It's freedom, but at the end of the day, you do have to like draw a box. You do have to have values you stand on. It's like you'll what is it? Stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's why like so for example, the store. I literally did not expect to have a retail establishment that's owned by me that I have supported and put on myself. I didn't expect to have this till I was 40. Like truly, I did not think that this would happen. And the fact that it did, first off, validated I'm on the right path. But then it was kind of an existential crisis. This is probably the past 3 months. You know, we might have even talked about this.
Yeah, where you're like, what am I doing now?
Now what? And my girlfriend being she has a service-based business. She's helping people. People cry in her presence because of how much she helps them.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I'm missing, dude. I'm not helping nobody. This has been a selfish practice. This has been like, you know, and rightfully so. It probably should have been up to this point, but I'm like, man, I gotta find a way to give back that's not just like selling paintings. Like, and that's when I really started diving into, okay, what do you care about? What are you actually in this for? Like, what is fulfilling you about it? And that's when I've started this ethos that I'm describing to you now of like artist empowerment through a different system. And you know, I'm very big on you plan and you try to shoot for the moon, basically. Make the biggest, most uninhibited plan you can, and your natural tendency in the universe will scale it back for you until you do what you can do with what you have. But that overarching plan has to be there. For me, I have to have a North Star. I always have to have a show in the horizon. I got to have a project I'm working on. That can hurt you in some ways, but it keeps you busy and it keeps it all moving forward.
Well, it does the same for me. I always feel like when I have something on the calendar I'm looking forward to, whether it's a specific business task or a trip that I haven't took in a long time or something like that, it like gives me another boost of energy to lock in. Like if I'm planning a bigger trip and it's 2 months out or 3 months out, I'm like, no, I'm going to go hard for this 3 months.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't always take something like that to keep you locked in because you want to stay as consistent as possible. But having a show on the horizon, having those, I don't know what the right word is, but it's like having those demands of yourself.
Yeah.
Set you up to be better.
It's a standard. Yeah, for sure.
Because in my business, I'll grind, right? And then I'll have a moment of, I feel like I'm not producing though. I feel like I'm working, but I'm not like producing. I'm not like getting paid enough, or I'm not doing this enough, or I'm not getting enough deals, or whatever it may be. But then as soon as I stop throwing a fit, take a step back, even in the same day, like if I'm having a bad day and I take a step back and then look at my situation, I'm like, oh, but these 13 things are working in your favor.
That's support. That's
what you're talking about. Like it's these different legs of the table, that it's not always just this one.
Right.
So like even this last month, it was like a week or two ago, I was kind of hitting a down point in my business. Not where I wasn't closing deals, but more of like a mental, just kind of drained. And I'm sitting there being negative for a second, and then I flip it. I'm like, no, you got to stay positive. You got to think of the things you get to do, the opportunities. And then I'm looking at what I had in front of me. I'm like, oh, you're actually covered in these 8 areas, and you're just having a bad day.
Yeah.
To where I think for most people, that's the opposite of us. They just want like that consistent gratification of like their normal day to day, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they're cool with that 9 to 5 because they woke up, felt like shit, drank their bullshit coffee, went to work, finished work, and then got to watch their show. And now it's 7:30 p.m. and they already did their 13 hours of stuff. Yeah. And they're like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy. And they don't pursue any of their dreams. We are so competitive, not only with the realms we work in, but also just internally, that we're like, no, we want to be the best version of ourselves, and we want to push to try more or experience more or travel more or eat different foods or build stuff or paint or things like you're doing, to where I think some people cap themselves on their creativity.
Yes. And
for an artist like yourself, I mean, your creativity runs wild, but I bet Is that something you see in people where you're like, man, he might do better if he just grabbed a paintbrush for today?
Oh, dude, everyone who comes, I always tell people to paint. I'm always like, dude, you should try painting. You should just try it.
Do you think you'd ever like have one big canvas in here, and when people come in, if they want to, they can get 5 minutes in a corner or something?
I've thought about that, just like covering the whole wall and
like
stuff.
Here,
and
do this,
like,
do this, do this, and just give them a section, not to box them in, but just to keep it realistic.
I have thought about that, dude. There's just such a to non-artistic, quote unquote, like you said, everyone is an artist, dude, because your life is an art. It's the greatest art, and dude, but painting is like, I just can't even believe it's like, thank God for America. Like, you paint whatever you want. Like, you have a freedom of expression. Like, you can paint whatever the fuck you need.
I was just making sure it wasn't on.
It just sounded like it's popping.
Yeah, I was like, hey, man, it's out of water.
Then low key, if you I've leaned on these before. I almost burned this bitch down because I caught this like wicker bag on fire because I leaned on this and didn't know it. And I came in here and it was flamed up. It was fucking scary. But
we did that over a pot one day. We had a like parchment paper or something. You know, when you're cooking something, you put it over it.
Yeah.
A piece was hanging off and it caught, and I was like, oh!
Dude.
Because you see movies with kitchen fires and it's like...
bro, it like was accelerating quickly. Like it was...
Did you throw it outside or what'd you do?
No, I just hit this and fucking blasted it. Because I was like, I can see how fires happen so quickly.
Oh, but man, anyway, those people, you're saying like they may have a block, like they won't do it? Like you'd ask them to paint, they'd be like...
Yeah, there's so many people, I'm not creative. I'm not a painter. Blah, blah, blah. Dude... Again,
just put some color on there.
How much can you shed to go do something? That's what it's about. It's not how perfect can I make this? How much can I... First off, I don't even like impressionism. You can't paint better than a photo I can take or what my eye can see. So whatever, there's value to it. And I have pieces of impressionism in mind, but...
Is impressionism and realism different?
That's a good question. I think...
You have
realism,
more artist words than I know.
I think that realism, but dude, I'm not educated in it, but I think that realism is real. Like it's like hyper realism and stuff like that.
Where it does almost look like a photo.
Impressionism, it's your take on something that's real. Mm-hmm. But like then there's like true like cerebral, I'm drawing from a vision bank in my history in my mind. So I guess everything is a form of impressionism, but it's just like, you know, take this, draw the living room. That's like impressionism. But so in a way, kind of everything is.
But if you did this living room in your style, it'd be more like that, and then it's not impressionism.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
I don't
know either. But again, these are the downfalls that can come with not being classically trained in art.
Is that something you find important?
I could definitely see how it would be important in drawing. But as far as
drawing, how so? Like being able to see like this cabinet and know that it's perspective or whatever. Because you had told me like 1 point perspective or. You've told me a bunch of different things.
It's just, it has negatives and positives. I could definitely see how just like understanding color theory and how to like I don't really do my paintings in a technical underpainting way. Like
I don't even know what that means.
So like if you've ever watched like people who are classically trained, like they'll paint that entire painting will be painted in shades of orange or shades of gray.
Well, I was just thinking of a clip I saw where the lady had a horse that she sketched and she painted the whole canvas orange and then built from there.
Yeah, because you can inform the values of the levels of shadow that way a lot easier than you can but I don't really do that. I've done it before, but I'm just not into it. You know, I'm here to get to it. So that's why these are like so bold and highly saturated versus like I don't really.
Does highly saturated mean dark?
It's just like the colors are intense and they're
like that's super red.
Yes,
like that. Okay.
Yeah, and like there's blending and whatnot, of course.
Well, the thing I like about that, what's that painting called? Do you have names for them or?
Oh yeah, dude.
So what's the name for this one?
That is called The Star Guides You Home.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's that North Star you always need.
You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy. Why is there a cherry blossom on the left and then no cherry blossoms on the right?
Well, just like there's flower petals on the left and not on the right, and he's a skeleton and he's a clothed man.
Oh,
it's duality. It's the dance with death. It's within and without. It's that balance that you're always trying to achieve. You know, and that's
the within without is like, in other words, finding that balance.
Yeah, it's as above, so below. The inner thoughts reflect in your outer life. You know, and then. If you take that principle and apply it, you just see it everywhere. You see it across nature. You know, it's just like it's how to get to the truth of things, because you gotta like, you can't change your life if you don't change your thoughts.
Okay.
You know, so it's kind of a commentary on that. But this painting series, there's one more that's a painting of Sara off a roof. That's the
one that I like.
Yeah.
The one that we talked about. Mm-hmm. And this is you, and then you have Sara, and then this is two other beings.
Right. It's like but my thought of it is, and this is how I choose to plug in concepts and like things that I'm studying, is because that to me, that was at a time where I was coming back to Christianity. So I'm studying the Trinity. So I'm looking at all the ways that the Trinity reflects in life. The sun, moon, star, man, woman, child, like all these different...
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Yes. It's all these different like analysis of that. And so that's why so how that relates to... So when I go to paint it, it's like, okay, how do I reflect man, sun, these kinds of things in here? That one's called the sun, S-O-N, gazes back at you. But it's heavily orange. There's a sun in it, you know, it's light shining, you know, it's very, what you would consider masculine in its construction and in its color palette. While this one, they're very playful. The star,
they're dancing kind of.
They're dancing. It's a child. It's fun. It's
no rules.
Yes. And it's this, while the other one with Sara will have, it's a little more feminine.
Where is she sitting? Because you said you're sitting in the studio in here, but she's sitting at like dinner, right?
We're on it. Actually the reference for it was an image that I took of right here on a roof.
Yeah, you told me.
We're sitting on her roof just with
whose roof?
Her roof.
Oh,
yeah. It was in Nesta Park.
Oh, that's cool.
Her room was right off the roof. So we used to get out there and she would make like cheese. Yeah, honestly, we would literally just look at the moon together and like.
That's powerful though.
Yes.
The moon, like, I'll get on a native thing real quick. So in Comanche's heritage, and it's not negative, but the full moon is when they do most of their raids because they could see.
Right.
But then on the spiritual mindset, you know, a new moon brings that rebirth. Mm-hmm. So like when you charge your crystals or when you want to make intentional thoughts, manifestation and stuff. So to think that y'all are building your love while staring at the moon is like low key crazy, because you're taking all this time to be mentally present, but you're doing it with all this energy.
Right.
And you don't realize that's why your foundation for you all is so strong, because you like take those moments, kind of like what you're saying, and art, love, life, you're shedding all these things to just be.
Right. You're getting back to who God made you. Like we spend our whole life becoming, getting away from that. That's why there has to be, you know, coded books that are ancient to remind us. Like it's really crazy. The one with Sara is called The Moon Sees Through You.
Okay.
So it's just like
sun gazes back at you. What's this one again?
Star guides you home.
Star guides you home, and then the moon
sees through.
Damn.
Yeah. And so that's even an idea of like her feminine energy and my balance of like seeing through who I really was. At that time I started painting, we became very vulnerable. Like it was a super vulnerable time.
Well, and it's not I'm just speaking, but I would think that you're a way better person or a better version of yourself now
100%.
Than you were then. And women have a strong way of kind of seeing potential, I guess.
Yes, 100%. She must.
Well, because you don't realize how much you have a good relationship with your mom, right?
Yeah.
Me too. I'm a mama's boy. But in a way, even though I'm real dependent on women love, like from a spiritual and from a realistic standpoint, like I love that. I love when my mom or my sister or my grandma or my wife, you know, that feminine energy. But then me and you both had women come into our life as adults when we weren't really looking for that.
Right.
And then they see something in you that you don't know. Like when I was saying earlier with Sara, like when I see her around you, she's like, just, bro, like, I don't know what the word is, like, not expressing, but like when it's pushing through you, like she just has love and admiration for you, just like pouring out of her. And I mean that in a positive way. You can just see it.
I feel it. Yeah.
You can feel it. Like, damn, why is she holding his arm like that? Like, that's sweet.
Yeah.
But it goes even deeper where you're thinking of, wow. Like I think of when I was living really unhealthy and not making good choices, and me and Rachel met and we started building together. But it was always because she was taking the steps first. Not that I wasn't leading, because I feel like men lead in a way, but so do women.
Right.
So Sarah's coming in with, it's like because we're such a survival mindset of like produce, take care of, and keep going, that we don't always give ourselves adequate time to think of some little things, to where I feel like Sarah, Rachel, they give us those moments to look within. Mm-hmm. Like you may have not been taking this time to get in touch with your spirituality if you didn't have someone that was promoting all that positivity and giving you like that space.
Dude, 100%.
Because me and you would just be doing something else.
On point, yeah.
It'd be like, bro, Trax, were you trying to go do some bullshit? Like you would just do something else.
Yeah.
But then you need someone that boosts you that much, and then other stuff becomes important. Like what we talked about before we started, like you barely drink on 4th of July with your family, but then you feel like crap for X amount of days, and you're like, no, that's not me.
Yeah, your energy is going to get spent probably regardless. Yeah. So it's like, being highly selective and like transactional. But I do see a lot of similarities. I think that's why like you and I grew closer when we did, is because like we went through a similar experience at the same time.
Well, it's cool to get closer as you're growing. Yeah. It's interesting because like I said, we've had that group message for 15 years, but I've known you since 2008-ish. Yeah. Because that's when high school was. Yeah. But I've gotten more closer to you in the last year than any of that time. Yeah. But we've always had the same relationship as far as values. Yeah. Our values have always been the same, but we just always weren't we weren't on the same vibration. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that was because one was and one wasn't. We were both not. Right. Like we're both just figuring it out. You were in college, you were doing the frat, you were trying to build a business. I'm in college, I'm playing basketball, I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to decide if I want to leave the country and like pursue basketball. Okay, no, I want to work. And you're like, do I want to do the artist? No, but I got to work. Right. So we're going through like a survival mindset. But then you get to like that flourishing mindset where you can have, like when you said how peaceful your house was, that meant so much to me just because I know what my house means to me. Mm-hmm. And like when I was younger, even though I loved to be home, I didn't feel peace when I was at home. Right. Like even though it wasn't a crazy environment, I don't think I'm peaceful. Unless I was maybe gaming or something. But then I think of us now and we're pretty intentional with spending that energy. Yeah. Where I just never really thought about it, but I'm glad it came naturally. Because now, I mean, you and I are going to be doing one of like 10 things. That doesn't mean we're not spontaneous and doing crazy stuff, because I'll just see a picture of you at some random place you vacation to. Like I just saw you in Colorado. But it's like you don't realize, you know?
And yeah, tell me if like this is something, I describe this to people a lot when they do comment on me and Sarah's relationship or kind of this growth pattern we're talking about. And knowing how you're a mama's boy, I'm a mama's boy, you know, our dads weren't in our life to that level. Like there's something to be said about that. And I could see it in your and Rachel's relationship, and you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but how I describe it with me and Sarah is I was raised by all women. Mm-hmm. She was raised she has a mother. They didn't have the best relationship, but there you go. But whatever. They're great now. But she was raised mainly by her brothers and her dad as far as like her influence into it. So we complete each other in that way where, for example, I'm like highly empathetic and highly kind of emotional, intelligent. I can express it. I can't hide it. I'm an artist. I'm rapping about it. I'm painting about it. At the beginning of our relationship, Sarah, she struggled a little bit with how do you do that so well? She wants to internalize it and put it on herself. I was very outward expressing. And that came from, I believe, you know, I carry feminine energy. A female carries masculine energy. It's just to these varying degrees and varying levels. And I find that her steadfastness, her sternness, and her sense of adventure, which I would kind of, maybe not sense of adventure as much, but the determination to do it is something that, you know, in celestial energy terms, you would assign to the masculine. While all those things I described about myself, you might assign to the feminine. Mm-hmm. And so we complete each other in those ways, to where when I need help in making a decision, she gives me an uninhibited, unemotional point of view at it. Where me, I can't escape the emotion of it.
Bro, 100%. Like, I feel like I didn't even think I was an overthinker until I built that relationship with Rachel, and it comes down to those moments. Because it'll be like me overthinking a situation. She's like, yeah, but what if we just do it?
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
And
exactly.
I don't know why that is, but when I don't know what it is. As a man, I'm going to just speak for me.
Yeah.
I feel like and she'll sometimes be like, babe, like, stop asking me. Like, you got it. Like, you got it. But like, I feel so much more empowered. Not that I should lean on her to get, all of that, because I need to produce that myself. But if I'm going through something, even if I know I'm going to come up with the answer, I want to run it by her almost. Like, here's my situation. Here's what I think I should do. What do you think? And she's like, of course. Like, yeah. Or, hey, you're overthinking this. You need to do this. Like, you don't realize, I guess, what helps move the needle for you. Mm-hmm. So when I think of being raised by my mom and my sister and my grandma and things like that, I had a lot of male influence too because of my grandpa and my dad. I didn't grow up.
Yeah, my grandpa was big in my life too.
But I lean heavy on the emotion. Mm-hmm. Sometimes Rachel will be like, damn, like, sometimes you're more emotional than me. And I'm like, at first I'll take it as a negative because I'm emotional. So you take you take it as a negative or get defensive. And sometimes I find myself even doing it with her where I'm thinking of an excuse of why I can't do a certain thing. And she's like, hey, but think clearly and do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about that. I mean, the masculine and feminine, when it comes into your life like that and you're able to start differentiating between the two, it'll help you move forward. But I don't think I would be able to do it on my own. Like, I wouldn't have such a peaceful place like we were talking about with your home if you didn't have that feminine figure. You just wouldn't. You could make it as clean as you wanted to. You could make it look like an Apple store, but it's not going to have that same peacefulness.
Yeah.
Like
character. Like,
you don't realize how important it is. I thought it was like, do what you want to do and the right things will happen. You'll move on. Whatever. Life is life. But then you meet someone that makes you rethink your whole world. And not just with them, like, not just on like a lover boy mentality. It's more on like how to live life. You take more time to appreciate the moon and sit on the roof. Or, man, we inspire each other, by the way. I know you give me a lot of love when you text me and things, but I saw one day that y'all were just having a lake picnic. Yeah. And I was like, they made time. Like, this is how fucking soft I am. I'm sitting there looking at your feed and I'm like, man, they took time today and planned that and then rode to have a picnic together. That's super sweet. Yeah. Like, that's me, a brother of yours, looking at it like so happy. Yeah. I'm like, no, you know how much intentionality that takes to set aside time for pleasure?
That's Sarah, man. Like, that's one of the greatest gifts she gives to me is that, like, that spontaneity and that quality time, because that's what she needs. Real quality time. Don't be on your phone when you're with me. Like, let's be present together. Let's laugh together. Let's experience what we're looking at together, and then let's go home, internalize it, and we can move forward. And then in our individual practices, we have now a beneficial experience to draw from. Or you're painting, you have something more beautiful to draw, And she has more like energy and time to do her job,
And more passion to do it with.
Yeah.
Like, she's not burnt out. Like, something I tell Rachel is, I like how we can be talking the whole time and then enjoy silence, and then we're talking, but then no, this is a silent time. Because for the longest I would just talk because you're not used to like that, not awkward silence, but just silence in general. But then you realize, like, no, this is true connection when you find another human being on an intimate level, because you can do it with your friends or family or brother or sister or whoever, and you can have like a silent moment. But when on that intimate level, when you find a real life partner where you're like, no, this person only adds to my life. It's not that she's pulling from it. Even when we have struggles, we get through them together. It's not nothing but positivity. Then you sit there and you're like, no, I can enjoy this moment. Like, I can just sit here and stare at the sunset with her and we don't talk for 20 minutes. And then you're like, wow, that was nice.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize, like, all the times that you pass those moments up when you were in a rush. Because then after doing them with her, it made me do them more on my own.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'll be driving and see the sunset and stop, or I'll take a moment and burn some sage and, meditate for a minute. Right. Or I'll take the long way home because I know I'll get to see some deer on the way home if I go this way. Like, I always loved the little things, but once I started experiencing them with her, and I think her telling me it's all right to express myself, is how I became more and more myself. She even brings up about you all. The first thing she always tells me about you all, the Goop Troop, is how lucky we are that we have friends for this long.
I think about that a lot.
Because sometimes we do take it for granted. Myself included. I'm like, no, those are my guys, but it is what it is. It's like, no, you guys have been together for 15, 20, 25 years. Like, a lot of people don't get this.
Yeah.
So you need to appreciate that. But it's like, you just don't know the importance of that.
Yeah.
I come around her and she tells me, it's okay to do this. It's okay to express yourself. And that's what it made me think of you all. Because she's like, what do they think about you? Like, what do they think about you? Because when y'all were in high school, you just had short, spiky hair, smoked weed all the time, and like ate bullshit. Like, they see you do all this other stuff and go on this journey of bettering yourself. I wonder what they think of you now.
Yeah.
Same to you. Like, you've changed so much.
Yeah.
But all my friends that have changed a ton, not all of them, because not all of us are in relationships, but some of the ones that I've seen become the best versions of themselves had help from someone like that.
Right.
Whether it was a relationship for a little bit of time and then it fell off, but it propelled them, or they found like that actual partner that just made them genuinely happy. You spoke on it earlier, your inner child, like, took you back to playtime.
Yeah.
Like, when me and Rachel get to just play, like, whether it's painting or hiking or riding the bikes. Today we rode around Hefner.
Nice.
Or even riding the Vespa.
Yeah, big Vespa rides.
Those type of moments, though, you don't realize, like, how much they're shaping you to just be a better person to just everyone around.
I just give it up to God, man. Like, all in one summer, I had literally, and it's crazy because I was introduced to like this kind of mindful thinking, this not just spirituality, but like all things kind of tied up with this mindful sense and awareness of your life. I had people in my life before I met Sara, probably back, 2019, that kind of range, early 2020, people that were putting these ideas to me. And I literally was now that I think about how I responded to them, dude, I was not ready to receive them. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't care. I was just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like they were, I don't know. I can't think of any specific examples, but my friend Ryan, he used to be very much on this wavelength of like, I clearly could tell that his intellect was functioning at a higher form than mine. But I just chalked it up at that point to, he's older than me, which is a part of it. But then, dude, once I had, literally, I was ass out. Broke as fuck, no job, COVID time, entrepreneurial pursuit I was pursuing fell apart, like living in the pool house, had nothing. I'm going on walks every single day. I'm just walking around Oklahoma City. I've walked every alleyway in Oklahoma City that you could probably fucking find in the metro area and just taking it all in, coming to understand. I learned how the trees breathe. I learned what trees shed this. I just came really in tune with these things and read some books, and then I had a spiritual awakening. As soon as I had that, I met Sara. And then as soon as I met Sara, I started painting. And that's why I always tell her, she's just like, she's like, you're so great and all this. And I was like, dude, I didn't have this without you. Like, this wasn't a thought without you. You empowered me to do this along with God.
The painting even pushed even further when you're...
Yeah. And it all happened so quick. It was one summer of just focus, one summer of turning, really, again, I keep going back to it, but it was one summer of just turning to God and expressing that, dude, I'm fucked up right now. Like, everything is bad.
Yeah.
What else could I where do I go? Like, I just had, and then, yeah, it just all changed for me, man. And that's why, that's why I choose to make it part of my art practice. If you don't have that experience, yeah, you might not make it part of your art practice, but I choose to, because it has progressed my life in such a beautiful way that if this is how it stays forever, nothing will. But if it was to stay like this forever, I would be content, because I know that it came from like the truest form of me, like that God, Sara, my mom, people that love me helped bring out in these times when it was dark, And so I when I pray, I ask that, like, I paint with God's light, that it shines on things, dude, because if you got to do it for that, because it's just, dude, otherwise you're just doing it for yourself. And that shit you're going to die. And, oh, well, and And I never want to have that feeling, like, or have other people have that opinion of me that, you know, he lived for himself, or he was a selfish person. I just want it to be, man, he was talking about God a lot. Man, his paintings were deep. You know, man, like, I can go back to his poetry books and like feel something. His music has changed my life. Like, that shit is dope. Like, that's what I want people. You just want that legacy. And, you know, I hope that that's what it translates to. And then I give it to my child, and my child continues it. And I have something to give to them outside of, you know, a pat on the back, you know.
Well, that's something that you said that really stuck out to me just now is you mentioning some of the art you do, whether it's music or painting or poetry or all those things. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm witnessing your journey. Yeah. So like, you think as an artist that you have one lane, like, no, I'm a painter, or I'm a closed brain, whatever you wanted to say.
Right.
But I see this trajectory where it's like, no, we had t-shirts, then we had all this, then we had a clothing line, then we had painting. And then you're like, yeah, but I did poetry too. Oh, but now I rap. It's like, are you the epitome of like what an artist is? Like, yeah. Yeah. Like, not saying you're the perfect template and everyone needs to be Trax, so I don't want you to feel any type of way. But in all honesty, like, you're living it. Right. Like, you're letting whatever creativity comes go into whatever direction, because you're not stuck on, I only paint. You're like, no, I have a show. And then I'm doing a abstract piece where it's more, it's kind of like that impressionism you're talking about. It's a lot more like textured, you know, sculpture. So I get to see it. So it's actually pretty impressive, and for you to do it. Yeah, of course. And the fact that you kept going with it because there was all those low points. So you're talking about painting in the park. Yeah. Well, every time I talk to you, that's the thing I love the most, is that we have a range of a combo. Right. So every time we talk, you're like, hey, here's the good, here's the bad, here's some stuff I'm struggling with, and here's how I'm working through it. But that's like almost all of our conversations. It's not ever like, no, I'm doing good, man. Thanks. See ya. Yeah. It's like, no, I've been struggling with this. I think that's something cool about our relationship, is the ability to be vulnerable. Like, no, my numbers are down right now and I'm looking for this. Yeah. Like, that's wild to be mature enough to have those type of conversations. Yeah. Instead of just surface level bullshit. That's why you don't catch us at the bars all the time, because like, what are we even talking about here?
That's why I would hate going to the bars, because every night I was kind of on this wavelength when I was still going out like that, but every night I was like, man, I hope I have a good convo tonight. I hope I can meet somebody. At certain times it was like, I hope I can meet a female that will, like, you know, be that, but then sometimes I hope I can meet a friend that would just be that, like another guy that we could have these kind of talks, and it would never fucking happen. Sometimes over cigarettes, smoker circles, a lot of world problems have been solved for sure. And I had a little bit of it, but man, it was just so unfulfilling. Like, and then I would just drink because I was unfulfilled, and you know, you just needed to fill the space and the time. And
then you drink, and then it's 2:30, and then you're trying to eat something real quick. Then you're trying to go to bed. It's like 4. It's like all this
fucking darkness.
Wake up the next day late. It's crazy. I've been at functions, and someone will show up, and they're like, "Yeah, I haven't ate today," and I'm like, "It's like 3. Like, what do you mean you haven't ate? Like, we're still grown ups. Yeah. Like, you don't mean you didn't wake up and have a beneficial day before this activity?" Yeah. So it seems like, not old people, but it seems like adultish to like have those thoughts. But when I see people going and getting faded all the time, I'm like, oh man, they must not be able to spend a lot of time on improving themselves. And I'm not even saying I'm a finished piece. I'm working on myself every day. But when I see people doing this and throwing all their good energy into that, I'm like, there's no way they're also thinking of, well, let me stretch today, or let me eat well today, or let me be nice to the next person I see. Like, it's kind of unreal, because you're saying like what you wanted to spend your energy on. And when you see what people spend it on, it's like, oh, they're poor mindset, not money wise, but in their energy output. They're only just putting their energy into low return activities.
Yeah. It's transactional. Like it's transactional, and everyone wants it, needs it, outputs it. So like, everyone is coming to you for your energy. Not that it's a bad thing, but everyone is stealing energy from you. Mm-hmm. Like, me and you right now are exchanging it, like, back and forth, and it's mutual. But a lot of the times you're just the person to listen. A lot of the times you're just the person to talk. And like, at those times you have to just accept that, okay, I'm going to get mine's back somehow. Like, I just listen to you talk for, 30 minutes and with no interruption. And I'd be doing that to people. because I need their energy. I need that listening ear. And I know that it will be returned because it's transactional. Energy is never created or destroyed. It's just moving through us all. And like that, the awareness of that system, like, I don't know, like really is kind of the key to that growth that's necessary. And you care more about the energy you put out because you know that someone's going to come and get it. Like at some point you're going to give it away. Like, so are you going to give out bad shit to people? Are you going to give bad advice? Do you care, like how you treat others and how you put that out there is a reflection of how you care about yourself. If you don't care about yourself and you are making those bad decisions like we've all made and like live that lifestyle, you're going to give out bad energy to people. And then it's just a perpetual cycle of like darkness. And really you just want to be that light. That's what it means to like be in God's light and like have that about you. And people can see it, people can feel it. And a lot of these kind of conversations is like, well, this is what I like to put out to the art. Like, it's just a captured energy at that moment. It's like, we can talk about the art in a way, like you said about our conversations. Like I'm blessed, dude. I have these conversations, like not to our level, but I get to have these kind of conversations a lot because I'm an artist.
Well, the more that you're open to them, the more they happen. Cause yes, we have some great conversations, but I feel like when the other people are willing, I can almost have those convos with anyone because I'm willing, but you have to find that mutuality.
Yeah.
To where people are open to being like, well, here's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. And it's so interesting trying to sell art because these kinds of things are what to me will sell the art and what will convince people that they want it and they need it because we're all humans. We're all having a very similar experience. Like we're subject to the same shit. We face the same vices. There's only so much you can experience with five senses. And I mean, we're all going into it, but it's like when you can connect on that post sense, that super sensory level of these, I don't know, just that spirit of things is, people come in here and they will talk to me about colors. And that's cool. We can have the conversation about the colors of these paintings. We already did. It's like, and then it won't go any deeper and I'll let it be that. I'm not salesy. I'm not going to force you to like, I'm not going to be like, okay, so would this go in your living room? Like I'm not,
would this go in your living room?
It's not about that. What color is your couch? Like, fuck that. But then some people will come in and I'll watch them open up, dude. They'll start with the color and then it's like, but what's the symbol? How does that tie to you? And they'll just ask me questions and I'll ask them questions and we come to an understanding. And then there's some people who will come in and they won't talk about the art at all. They won't look at the clothes. They'll just sense the vibe. They'll see a little bit of the imagery and it's just straight to like, what are you on, bro? I got a dude come in one time and he had like a very gothic, or maybe it was in my mind, it's a satanic shirt. Like he had on a demon was on his shirt and we were talking about it and he like saw my prints of Jesus that I had, like these screen prints I did. And we didn't really talk. We ended up talking about all the art, but the first thing he said, he's like, so bro, what's going on here? Like, what are you? And I was just like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, are you Gnostic? Are you this? Are you Christian? Like, what is informing all this stuff right now? And
see, that right there is almost too much for me. Like, I don't want all those labels.
Well, what came out of that conversation was he said, are you Gnostic? And I said, I didn't know what that meant. I thought it meant agnostic, like no belief or whatever agnostics believe. And I said, no, I definitely, and he was like, no, I think you're misunderstanding me. Like Gnosticism, it's this. And he put me on to that, which has informed my like most recent spiritual thinking. But that conversation with a Satanist, I don't know if he's a Satanist, so let me not call him a Satanist, but this person who was portraying this image, what I would consider a negative image, came to me with highly enlightened thoughts.
Like some good stuff to
some
talk
really
about.
Good stuff. And we had an understanding and we're friends now. And he's given me game yesterday. Like,
that's crazy. Cause you almost in your past life, I guess it is your past life cause it's your history, but you wouldn't have been able to absorb that. Like I wouldn't have been able to. I would have
wrote him off.
I would have wrote him off as soon as I saw that. I was like, no, he's a punk rock dude. I'm not with that.
Yeah.
And then just I'm not even wanting to talk, but you're like, what do you have to offer? Here's what I have to offer.
Yeah.
And not looking for something. It's just like, no, you have a gift. What's your gift? Here's mine.
Right. Yeah, man. It's awesome. And that's what I love about Within and Without. That's what I love about the store because it's Dude, people are themselves here so much. Like when we do the happy hours and shit, people come through and I literally call it happy hours. It was originally just because I'm giving you free drinks. But dude, it ended up like, dude, everyone just loves the energy. Everyone is good. Everyone has something interesting to say because they feel comfortable to say it. They don't feel judged, which is crazy. The fact that I'm like, can be overtly a Christian person and they don't feel judged. Like, because, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to I'm here to present my gift and I'm here to share it with you. I think it's a sin to not share your gift and like limit yourself. So I'm in here sharing my gift. Will you share yours? And, people just love that openness, I feel. And I love that openness when I'm in spaces and when I'm having conversations. And so it's the biggest blessing so far of this whole journey has been to be able to share and be shared with. Like,
yeah,
it's awesome. I love it. And I'm just so lucky, dude. Like, I get to do this shit. Anytime that open sign is on, I get to do this shit. Like, that's why I want more. Obviously, I want more people to come in, but it's like, yeah, that's the real reason. The money is a great, secondary occurrence sometimes, but really it's about just like having a human experience, not being salesy, and just like growing, man. Like, we're all going to grow from these experiences we allow each other to have. But it's a special place, dude. I really love the store and I love what I've been able to create thanks to a cast of characters that we've kind of covered.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome because like there's dreaming and there's taking action. You have to dream, you have to manifest, you have to have these goals for yourself, but then you have to take the action to do it.
Yeah.
And less than a year ago, the universe kept running us into each other at Elemental.
Yeah.
To where I was starting to look forward to it. Where even today, when I stopped by there before I came, I looked for you.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like, no, Sara and Trax may be here. And there was probably 4 or 5 times I talked to you way too long and we're like an hour and a half in. It's like, oh, I have shit to do. I'm sorry, man. I got to go.
Yeah.
But I say all that to say that a year ago, you were telling me, no, my dream, like, and this is how we do it at first. We're like, no, once we get here, like, that's it. And you're like, no, I need this live workspace. Like, the studio's not working out. That would be our dream to get to that. And then not even a year goes by and you're like, hey, we got that live workspace. And now I'm looking for this. Not that you're not accepting the flowers of this, but you're like, no, I'm going to build on this.
Right.
And because you don't realize, like, when you're shooting for the moon and then you land where you do, that it's still progressive.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted that live workspace, you got it. You're like, well, maybe I need to do happy hour events. And then you do them, and then they're great. Yeah. And then I'm happy that you took a Polaroid picture of me.
Yeah,
and
a bunch of them.
You post the Polaroid pics, and I'm like, that feels cool. Like, I'm glad I was able to be there with that energy.
You were a part of that.
Yeah, and then you still wanting to build on it and realizing that money is important, but it's not the only factor. Yeah. And realizing that you're pouring into these people, but they're also pouring back. Right. And being open enough to have the conversation with the Satanist.
Yeah.
Like,
shout out to my man.
Shout out to the man.
He's not a Satanist. So.
But no, just the fact that you can experience that is a mindset. Like, you wouldn't have been, like you said, you weren't on the right frequency with that other person that was giving you all this game. Like, neither was I. And now you can give me some game, and even if I'm not ready for it, I can still absorb it in a way. Right. Instead of just throwing it off. Like, I remember you showing me a video that you and Sara watched. It was like 2 hours. And it was real. It was like that Egyptian one you sent me.
Who knows?
And
crazy
I'm listening to it, and it's real. And I'm going to have to listen to that multiple times. There's a lot of stuff I'm not going to absorb. Yeah. But then you and I have a quick talk over coffee or whatever it is, and we're moving mountains. That's the cool thing.
Feels like it.
That's what it feels like. That's the cool thing about once you're intentional and engaged in your interactions is we can talk for however long it is, but it's all impactful because you don't know how much you inspire or mean to me or other people. You know, you're just doing your thing. Yeah. And the same thing I'm doing, but then I get a text the other day from Mickey. So shout out to Mickey. Theo, as you all call him, and I don't even know where that came from.
Yeah, he hit me up. I haven't talked to Mickey forever, but he hit me up the day before Father's Day. It was like, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm free tomorrow. I was like,
it's Father's Day, bro.
And then he hit me on Father's Day and was like, I forgot I got to do Father's Day stuff. I was like, damn it. I wanted to hang out, but yes, it is.
He's top tier. Yeah. But the other day he texted me, and this podcast stuff is still new. Like, it's still new, but I want to stay consistent. I want it to grow. And because this is happening.
Right.
And Mickey texts me, someone that's known us for 20 years, and he texts me at 8 or 6 a.m. on Sunday and says, hey man, I just wanted to let you know that I listened to your podcast and I was on my way to work and I was really having a tough day because it was like 5 a.m. And it really helped me keep a strong mindset and keep going. And what your guest was talking about really helped because, you know, he had some tough times. And I'm like, man, that was only episode 2 or 3.
Right.
And someone I care about. And I tried to say, I'm trying to word this correctly. Like, it is important that a friend said that, but take the friend out and just look at the compliment for what it is. And it's like super impactful. I'm not saying that your people supporting you is not important, because like you supporting me, people that I know supporting me means the world. But when I take that filter off, like take off the bro filter for Mickey,
right,
and just look at him as a grown man that took time to listen to something that impacted his life, and he reached out to you. I have another friend from college named Ryan. He texted me and said, thank you so much for that second episode or third episode or whatever it was. That meant a lot to me. It helped me. And it's like, man, like they don't know how much that means to me because this is all brand new and I'm just winging it.
It's your gift though. And your gift is returning to you.
Yeah.
Like, through reverence and through like that fulfillment from it making that small difference, because that's probably what your intention was. It's like, it's the intention, and it's to me, that's literally God telling you like, keep going, dude. Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Like,
you're getting that validation and it's quick. It's so trippy because it's just an act, like with your art or with me doing this. Like, I'm just doing it selflessly, but then I'm getting these returns.
Right.
So it's like your validation with the art. Even speaking of validation, when I started sketching and I told you I was knocking out a bunch of these little ones, and then I did one and you liked it, it was really cool.
Oh, really?
Like, I was like, man, an artist likes my art.
Hey,
like, and it seems like not that crazy because you, like you said, everyone's an artist. But then you, who I see as a professional, said you liked it. And I'm like, man, I might be onto something.
You're definitely onto something.
That's funny. Like, it's funny that those moments can mean so much. So when another man tells me, no, your message helped me get to work this morning, I'm like, dude, damn. Like, it did that. And I'm your boy. That's the difference. It's like, you already know me and you're still getting value. That like makes it even better.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Same way when you're describing your paintings and I'm sitting here getting all this passion from you. Yeah. It goes a long way.
It's contagious. And like, yeah, man, I always tell, like, when I see people doing art, like, I'll either be indifferent or I'm going to really like it. And I always tell people if I like some shit, dude, because there was a girl at the restaurant the other day and she's a painter. And when people talk, there's a couple other people that I've worked with that have painted, but it's almost because like I take shit so seriously. They are kind of like, oh, like
I do it as a hobby.
Yeah, it's a hobby. Like instantly they just invalidate everything. So like I always make it a point then to be like, oh, I saw what you put on Facebook. Like that shit was fire. I looked at it multiple times, and the way that you like, I'll just break it down a little bit. I'll just be like, dude, the way like that iris was like compositionally in front of that like brown field of color was like crazy. Now I want to paint purple over brown. And I like told that to a girl the other day and she was just like, she loved that I said that. And like, I bet that went a long way. And because it goes a long way to me when people say shit like that. And I can tell that you went to the painting and you actually looked. And it's so easy to just scroll by, and people, I mean, everyone scrolls by everything, you know, but it's a lot different too when you're like in here and you're in the presence of this. Like, it's just like, it's a lot more daunting and you can't scroll by it.
No, it is impactful for me to sit here and look at your art around, because it almost, like, I wouldn't want to take it in any other way than be in the artist's house looking at his work.
Right.
Like, it's like the best way to do it.
And that's that struggle of like, as an artist too, like oversharing and like being emboldened to Instagram and the algorithms and all that. And giving, dude, I mean, the
fact is that you know about all that. Like, you could dive into it if you really had to.
But I don't want to, dude.
No.
Nothing hurt, dude. And if you do it, cool. But nothing hurts me or makes me cringe more than the artists like turning around the canvases. Have you seen those videos? I cannot stand them, dude. I don't care if it better be some fucking heat if you're going to go through all this. And I've seen a couple of them. There's this one dude, he'd be painting these like 30-foot, like amazing Renaissance paintings that he'll just do his little turnaround, but he's like this big compared to the canvas. That's cool. But like, fam, just post it. Don't play this out. Like, you're playing the algorithm game. And like, I get it. You feel you need to do that, but there is nothing more tangible. There's nothing more pure. There's nothing that will take you further than like reality. Hosting your own show. That's another part of assisting artists. Like, you don't need to go be in this show over here that these people are putting on. They're going to take all your money. Find a friend. I used to barter, like creative services for space. Like, yeah, dude, I'll do this. I'll build this Google campaign and do your social media for a couple months and help you if I could have this space for free to have this art show. Or like, or I just collab with a friend like on it. Like, I'd rather give a little percentage to my friend whose space I'm renting and give 30% and like have no creative control and like can't, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that.
You're fine, man. I'm so proud of you. Like,
thanks, dude. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, but it's just impressive. You wouldn't think, like, when I saw you at a basketball court in Kingswood in your Ranger. Is it a black Ranger?
That was a
what was it? It's a single
Nissan
cab truck.
Frontier.
Okay.
Shout out to Chase Duncan also. Wrecked it.
You wouldn't think, me seeing you there hooping, and I'm like, why does he hoop like a OG hooper? Like, you always hooped old school to me.
You know what I'm saying?
Not anymore. Like,
I'm a lot better now.
Yeah, you weren't bad then, but you just like hooped like a old school, like how you would pull up behind your head and stuff, and it would work perfect. And then I walk over to the truck, and you're like, "Oh yeah, this is Tylor, the creator. Have you ever heard of him?" I'm like, "No," and this is blowing my mind. You're like, "Yeah, this shit fire." Huh? Like, you wouldn't think these little moments, or me buying your shirt, or me like one night I saw you at a party in the UCO area. We hung out, and then I left and ended up denting my car because I hit the brick median or something backing out. Damn. And you're like, dude, And I'm like, I know, man, it is what it is. But you wouldn't think these little moments, or us getting to hoop and just dapping you up, or whatever it is, would turn into something like this.
Right.
Where this means a lot to me now. And when I listen to it 20 years from now, it's going to mean even more. But to know I have such a good person in my life that I'm going to get to have this for however long it's blessed to be around me.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I feel the same way, bro.
Like,
absolutely.
I want to ask one favor of you. Do you mind if you take me to a couple pieces that are speaking to you now and kind of break them down? Because I thought that was really cool when you did that with that. And I think people would appreciate it.
Yeah, let's fucking do it.
Just pick a couple. And
I got new work too. So
whatever you want to do.
Damn, I don't know if what's going to be as deep as that is the trilogy here.
It doesn't have to be as deep.
Well, let's see.
I just thought that was pretty cool because you don't always get that insight from somebody.
This one's really dope. This is going to be in that new show. This one's called Limbo is for Lovers. But yeah, I don't know what the thought was for this. I kind of painted it out. And then the big thing for me was adding. The big thing where it kind of took on a life of its own was adding the halos. That's something I like to do in a lot of the work, like those guys over there.
Yeah.
I'll add these halos because for example, if you saw this and there was no halo, it's kind of, and you didn't know the name of it, it would just be like, okay, they're sitting on a stool in front of two buildings. Like, but when you add that halo, they're dead. And it's like,
oh yeah.
Or are they dead? It's just like this. It's very Dragon Ball Z. That's where it kind of comes from, you know, where they're all in the afterlife. And so a lot of the artwork, a lot of my art, I like to do this like kind of interdimensional play because we're painting on a fucking 2-dimensional surface. Yeah. How can we I'm in the 3rd dimension right now. How can we take it to the 4th? Which could be time, which could be space. I don't really know. But adding that halo then takes it to that 4th dimension. Because now we're in a perceptive zone of like, okay, now we can get into the concept, which is color-based and also these two like dichotomies of the buildings. So like the female in this image has a red dress, red high heels. You know, what do you think of that? You think of a night out. You might think of like very Julia Roberts, like Pretty Woman. You know the vibes. But like the man is in this kind of, again, stereotypical kind of blue suit. I don't know, in front of a church while she's in front of this hotel. Yeah. With this doorman, and it's Limbo is for Lover. The title's right there. And it's kind of like in this. So I have this thing that I got from a book of how I perceive the afterlife, that you basically get to do like this life review, and we're all here to like overcome what our soul has yet to overcome.
Oh, wow.
And you can get trapped in this idea of limbo, of like this perpetual cycle of incarnating and failing and incarnating and failing and facing the same problem over and over and over. And so the image of this is kind of like that decision you would have to make in the afterlife of limbo is for lovers. Let's go in this hotel, and what happens in a it's, to me, my mind goes to like, it's like sex driven of like, go in this hotel where these things happen, while this church and this like kind of busted ass house almost with this church is the opposite of that. And it's kind of that decision you have to make, again, within and without. It's these two like polarities that you're kind of faced with. Why is the woman happy that's like looking to go back to limbo and go back to these vices and go back to that old way, while the man is kind of smiling, or not smiling, he's a little more frowned and is kind of upset with her decision, and just kind of playing at those. I don't know. Yeah, everything is kind of, in this image at least, it's
And
very
the fact that it's
afterlife-y.
12 feet or 10 feet tall is crazy.
Oh yeah, dude. I actually think it's 8 feet, but it's fucking, yeah, that one, I really love how this one turned out. I used it for like the image for like the show advertisement, but yeah, that one's pretty deep as far as kind of the imagery of it.
So it's like you can get stuck in that lustful instant gratification, or you can kind of take the harder path, but it's more fulfilling.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of just that play. It's like, why wait for the afterlife to face these decisions? You could face them right now.
Yeah.
Like make the changes, like the changes we've been talking about this whole time.
Yeah.
Make that decision to surrender. Make that decision to choose goodness and light.
The thing that gets me is, when we were talking earlier about sometimes you have to let go a little bit. And like you said, the more you can shed.
Yeah.
You and Rachel were like on the same
Really?
wavelength, She's like, hey, you need to let off some control. You're saying shed some of yourself.
Yeah.
When I look at this, like, it looks amazing to me, right? Just start there. It looks good. I get the point. You know what I mean? I get the art.
Yeah.
But like for myself, unless I shed enough of myself and gave myself enough permission, like I'd be like, oh, well, her hand doesn't look perfect.
Right.
But it doesn't have to.
I mean, look at his hand.
I know, but it like doesn't matter.
Yeah.
To where sometimes in my art, when I'm sketching and stuff, I think I hinder myself because I do a line and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look like a hummingbird.
Yep.
And it's like, who cares?
It
To
doesn't.
where I look at this and I see eyes, but then I see not really eyes. And it's like, did he do that for a reason? Is that just what he was feeling?
Yeah.
But I still get the point. This is obviously a newspaper.
Yeah.
Like those are things in art that I think, even though you're not professionally trained or whatever
Right,
you said,
yeah.
or classically trained, this is art. When I learned to sketch, because I look at YouTube and look at advice or things, that's what they're talking about is like, not every detail matters. Like I think if I'm sketching you, I've got to make sure the Tupac is clean on your shirt, the shorts look good, there's a wrinkle, but I just need like some shorts, a shirt, and a face. And that's
capture the essence.
Yeah.
What I realized is people's eyes will fill in the blinks.
Or
Or like you're saying.
because I was looking at this and thought it was a hotel.
Yeah.
But you didn't tell me it was a hotel yet. I'm like, that kind of looks like a hotel to me with like the overhang.
You know what I'm saying?
But the windows aren't perfect. It's not like you took a ruler and it's square.
No. Yeah, you just got to capture the essence. And again, people's eyes will fill in the blinks because I don't know. I realize that a lot. And like when I'm just starting, not necessarily this painting, but other paintings, I'll just start and I can see faces and everything, or I can see this shape and everything because we're programmed visually to, again, fill in the blinks is the best way to put it. Like we have a bank of images in our mind that we're consistently extracting and using as reference. So like people are going to do that when they look at your work. There's no need to make it perfect. Like, and this isn't a real fucking place. How could I ever? It can't be perfect. It's not real. It can't be perfect. And that was big for me to realize is like, you're not painting any, like, who are you going to go critique? You're going to go find this hotel and find this trap house church and tell me that it's not perfect? No, it's perfect. I made it. It can't be more perfect. Like, and that, realizing that is extremely empowering and it is something you have to practice and remind yourself of though. But try it with your art, and I think you'll be super impressed. Also, how much better you'll get at drawing too.
Well, that's how I feel right now, because even some of the ones that I've done that I've like maybe haven't felt that great about, you'll compliment, or Rachel will compliment, or someone will come over and like want it. They're like, "Can I have that?" I'm like, "Of course." Mm-hmm. And you're like, "Yeah, but I see all those lines messed up," and it's like, that's the art of it.
Yeah.
Because I've been looking at some stuff that people post also. Because once you're into something, you can find it on everything. Mm-hmm. So I'll look at all these people sketching, and you'll see imperfections in theirs too.
Yeah, that actually, like, while I don't like to get, I do fall victim to like the comparison shit a lot on social media. I do get actually a lot of, probably more so, I get that where I'm looking at somebody who I highly respect, and I'm like, damn, like, that looks like I did it. Like it doesn't, it's not polished. That polishedness is what people are referring to as style. It's your mistakes are actually where your quote unquote style lies. And so go make some mistakes on purpose. Make the house not square. Leave spaces uncolored, you know?
That's something I need to learn more, is the leaving uncolored.
I struggle with it because I want to fill everything, but really there's an art to, again, how much can you shed? There's an art to less is more, and there's an art to negative space. And again, these are things you could learn probably in classical training, but learn them trial by fire, basically.
Some of my sketches, like, I find myself wanting to, because I'm doing just 4x6 for the most part, where I'll sketch an idea, a cartoon, or whatever it is. So a lot of times I'd want to color in the background. Mm-hmm. But then a lot of them recently, in the last month or two, a lot of them have been just the piece. Like I drew this airplane, you know, the fighter jets that have the mouth on them?
Yeah,
I just drew something like that with my inspiration on it. And I didn't color anything in on the plane, and I didn't color in the background. I just did red highlights with a pen where like there'd be red here, but it's not like colored red. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I found myself enjoying that look. Well, especially when I step back, because all of the time when we're doing art, we're looking at it from
always got to step back.
So then I step back and I'm like, kind of like that. And then you put it up on the wall and you're like, oh, I like it more. Mm-hmm. So this limbo for lovers is pretty cool.
Thank you.
And I like how we notice, like, obviously you know everything about it, but everyone's gonna bring something maybe you hadn't thought about.
Dude, that's actually my favorite part in talking to people about my art specifically is, yeah, the things they teach me about it via their experience. Like, that's again why we need to have these kind of convos, is because it opens up. Now I'll develop a new perspective, and you can see more what people like, and you can tool your practice to it or not. You know, you got to use discernment in like people's opinions and people's thoughts, but
like only take it for so much.
Yeah, and also acknowledge that the shit ain't yours anymore. Once it's here and you're presenting it to the world, it is open for interpretation. It's open for someone to say they fucking hate it. And that's fine. If you hate it, there's plenty of art for you to go look at that you like. But
and it's almost okay to get the bad.
What you don't want is indifference.
I'm like,
Yeah, if someone just passes by your shit, I'd rather someone hate it for a good reason than be indifferent to the fact that this painting exists. Like, that
makes me think on some of these. Are these people black? They look black.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if that was like you're going for it or some deeper.
Oh meaning. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that they like, it's not cool that they have a race, but they have like an identity.
There's been times where I've made people like chosen to make people racially ambiguous, or I'll make people like, well, she's red, like, or do things like that to kind of avoid that convo. Mm-hmm. But
it's also kind of cool.
It's really cool. Again, for better or worse, however you view it, like it's adding another layer of humanity to it.
Oh, another piece of depth.
Yes, exactly. You want as many like touch points. You want it to be triggered as many times as possible on these different things. And like,
it almost makes me feel like the only way I should be looking at art is either with someone that appreciates art or with someone that created it, because I've looked at a lot of your art and loved it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's hilarious that I'm looking at this one now and I can't stop noticing stuff.
Right.
Now that we're looking at it.
Yeah.
It's like you're like, come to class, Zach, stand here, look at it, and give me 5 things. Because Like something my eyes keep gravitating to is like this curved staircase, like it's pulling her in to go. Mm-hmm. Like, come on.
That's crazy because that is not the intention.
Right.
But it's the truth of it.
But that's what it's pulling me to is
Right.
It's like she's sitting there like, well, I might go back to Sin City.
Yeah, dude, it's her. There's that slight, dude. And I didn't really even intend it. All of this stuff honestly happens after the fact.
Yeah, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's what I was feeling. Because you are just going.
Winging it, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, for example, or like just think, like, dude, the sidewalk wouldn't go in front of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this doesn't make sense.
No, like that tripped me out because that's a light post, right?
Yeah.
But the light is like only shining the tree, but it would be more shining this.
Yeah.
Like in real life.
I don't adhere
But it doesn't matter.
Don't adhere to those things. Like, it's about just getting the image done, just getting your thought out and getting it complete, and let other people, it's viewers and art connoisseurs' roles and humanity's role to deduce what's going on in it. You just got to make it, express yourself, and hope for the best.
How long did this one take you?
This one, probably, I don't really think in terms of time, but probably just a couple sessions.
So what do you think of in terms of?
Just sessions, really. But sessions can be 6 hours. Sessions can be 2 hours.
Well, because that's what Rachel does with her sessions.
Yeah.
And I found myself, even though I probably do better with sessions, I found myself like really gravitating to those 4x6 sketches because I can do one in an hour. And you can do them faster. But if I'm being precise with stuff, I can do them in 45 minutes or whatever it is from start to finish. It's colored, sketched, ready to go. And I can get that completion. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to get more of letting go and working on it over time because she works on them over time or she'll come back to them like you said.
That's why I have to work on multiple at once because
you try to complete it right then.
Yeah. Like I like to complete things and I like to share a complete thought, a complete concept, but it's truly not the best thing to do if your goal is to do what I'm doing. It's not the best. It's best to spend time. But the only way to spend effective time is to work on multiple. Because if I was just at one all day, we kind of talked about earlier, if I'm on one all day, dude, like there's just only so much I can give to it. Like,
and then you're going to be almost bored.
Yeah, I get really bored and then I get distracted. I get my phone or like scrolling for music or something. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not even caring about this. Let me go. Like today I was going to work on yesterday I was feeling guilty because I didn't work on the flag. I worked on finishing that little piece and starting a couple other things over there. And then today I was like, all right, I'm gonna work on the flag. So I worked on the flag for 2 hours, got over it, and then started on this dude in the chair over here. I just did all that this morning. And I'm just like, yeah, just multiple things. Cause then at the end of a month, you look back, everything has been given a chance to develop. You've added perspective and you have like fucking 10 pieces. And it's way different than having just one that's so perfect, blah, blah, blah.
Right. That doesn't even matter. All right, let's go to one more because I think this is dope. You want to do
one?
this big one or this one?
I'll take your pick. You pick it.
I like this.
There's other ones back here too.
Okay, let me look.
This one back here is unseen. It's pretty fucking crazy.
This one?
Yeah.
Let's do this one because it's hard to interpret.
Yeah, dude. This is basically...
What is this? Is that black? Is that Sharpie?
Yeah, it's gonna be on your fingers.
Oh,
you're good.
What is it? Charcoal?
Yeah, it's like pastel. So again, you see that kind of smear. This is me just rubbing it. But
I'm like loving to ask you questions. Like, what is this?
Yeah,
What's
dude, it's that exciting.
So right here, and honestly, they kind of look alien on some of them.
You go
like
first.
That one looks alien.
Yeah,
that one looks alien.
Mm-hmm.
But that one looks like this one looks like he's pointing, giving orders, like Jesus-like.
Mm-hmm.
This guy looks like samurai-like to me.
Yeah, to me, this whole image is
it's a lot.
Right.
With no faces.
I don't even know if it's done. Like, part of me is going, I had a guy move towards buying it. He didn't want to that day, but he was like, this is complete. This is fucking great. But then I'm like, dude, this was intended to be colored, but I haven't done it.
Well, it almost reminds me of some of those videos you see of when people do like, what is it? Like not picking up the pen?
Mm-hmm.
Because this
single line drawing?
Yeah, because this is giving me like single line drawing, but singularly, if that makes sense. Like only in this section.
Yeah,
only
it does.
in this section. But then there's this center part here. Where is it? Like, are they? I don't know.
So it's called the First Supper.
Because that was giving me like the Last Supper energy.
That's kind of the composition is kind of like that. The First Supper. So again,
Is that Nikes?
Yeah. I'm trying to express these ideas that I was reading, and this is a very abstract idea of like ancient astronaut alien theory.
So I was on point a little bit.
You're definitely on. It's kind of overt, but like in my version, this is Jesus right here.
Okay.
To me, it looks like he's taking instruction from this character.
Yeah.
This character is.
Oh, that's his arm.
Yes.
That's his arm. Okay.
Yes.
Now it makes sense. I thought he was kind of like this, but now it's like the guy reaching across. Okay. He's like, hey, do these steps.
Yeah. It's basically, because there's a lot of things tied into ancient civilization, ancient earth, ancient knowledge, esotericism, metaphysics that do kind of lend themselves to somebody gave us this knowledge.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? And so this is just one idea of like exploring maybe somebody taught it to somebody like Jesus, because there's actually lost books of the Bible where Jesus goes and gets initiated essentially in Egypt and then proceeds to then do alchemical miracles throughout the Bible. So there's these ideas that he was given these knowledges and humanity was given technologies that no longer exist or do exist, but they're dormant. And so I just wanted to comment on, again, taking that compositionally, it's kind of Last Supper-y, but call it the First Supper because this is the prequel to that. This would have been the education of the people at that dinner. You know,
and it's like a combination of different species of people.
Species and characters. But then again, like it's further esoteric ideas of these different kinds of maybe, types of humanity that have existed, and like they're in modern clothing. I think that's a very interesting part.
Yeah, it's like a tracksuit almost.
Yeah.
This outside one. The inside one looks like an outfit, like jeans and a jacket, but that's like, it's giving me like a tracky look.
Yeah.
But then you come over here and you see a little bit of the alien, but then you also see like...
I pictured that as me afterwards.
Yeah, like he's giving me like... To me, it looks more... Not 70s, but like not old and not new, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like I'm losing track of time since we're in 2024.
Right.
But like that looks more like you're being a young man in the 60s, 70s, 80s realm.
Right.
Like maybe when they were having some of that awakening and they were getting pushed to the side.
And we're just replaying the 1960s the past like 10 years. But yeah, and I got this face is so random because all these were drawn like super quick, like as far as like,
you're just.
I mean, obviously, look at the facial composition. That's why I was like, I don't even know if these are done. But like, this chick came out looking so crazy. Like, I remember someone walked in during happy hours. They were like, "Man, what's going on with her fine ass over there?"
Seriously, no, she is pretty.
And
it's like a little stick drawing, and she's pretty,
right? And it's like, I don't know what everyone's role is in it, but that's kind of the underlying. I'm just exploring these stories that I'm reading in books and like interfacing with things that I wonder about. Like, I wonder where knowledge came from. I wonder where Jesus went in these times. I wonder if, you know, there's validity to these ideas. So I explore them and make manifest, you know, like this is word and knowledge made manifest into this. This is the allowance of these ideas now to be talked about. And maybe you take it and research. Now your knowledge has grown and like, but that's what this guy is doing in the painting, is sharing knowledge. We're now sharing knowledge. Like we're just reciprocating the energy that has been put out from this. And when I talk to people, I'll have this whole conversation with someone and be like, imagine that. And it's the same question of, would this fit in your living room? But the way you ask it is, imagine being able to do this in your home forever. Like, everyone that now graces this painting in your house, you can go into this. You are now equipped with something further. Like, I love this one. I think it might be done. And you can see these underpaintings. This was a whole ass piece, a big kind of epic piece before. And I covered it up. You can't be romantic about it. That's one thing. You gotta be willing to cover and start over on some things. And shit, I be broke sometimes. I can't afford to go buy this. It's like $100 canvas sometimes. But
it's crazy because I've been around your art and appreciated it. I've always been interested of it, but getting to not slow you down, but when we're in a happy hour, you may be talking to other people and we may just be catching up off the energy, you know? We may just be only going surface level at that point. Like, hey man, we're just surfacing right now.
Yeah.
But right now, being able to, I feel spoiled, like I said, to be able to pick an artist's brain while we're looking at it. But
Thanks.
It gives me more appreciation because from one point you look at something, you're like, oh, he did that. That's cool. But then I'm like, hey, what is this? And you're like, oh, well, this is what I see. And then I bring up something. You're like, yeah, you can see a little of that. You can see a little of this.
Yeah, you teach me as much as I'm like teaching you. Like that is the exchange. Like if this is another form of the Trinity, this is like the Holy Spirit. You know, this is something that communicating back to us.
Yeah, I mean, you literally said, what do you see? Like you were smart enough to take a step back just now and say, hey, no, what do you see?
Yeah,
it's like, oh, okay. Well,
I need to know. I'd be self-conscious sometimes. I'm like, is this the right topic to discuss? Is this a good painting? Is this compositionally accurate? Like,
that's got to be the one thing I'm taking away from looking at your art again right now, is that the fact that it's not perfect is really cool, that I'm getting the message, because the reason that's standing out to me is because I struggle with it.
Yeah, that's everyone's hold up with the whole art thing. Everyone would paint if they felt that they could be imperfect. Mm-hmm. But then, dude, we're never fucking perfect, dude. So why would we choose one thing to apply that to in our entire life? We accept it in our day to day. We know we're not perfect. We accept it. Why don't we accept it?
It's like, no, this has to be pristine.
That's because an art teacher fucking told someone that once. And that's why that classic training, I don't even, fuck it, dude. Like, it'll help you draw. Go take some figure drawing classes. I'd probably benefit from it. But, concept first, like ethos first, experience first, composite, like this is just the medium. The medium is the message, like it's awesome. I love it. I'm very blessed, and being in here with you puts it in perspective, because I'm around it all the time. I see these every day. Like I'm with them every day. I could tell you the story of where they were all made and what I was going through, but to see it in the way that Mickey called you, the way that you now give a further perspective to me, it's the gift returning itself, dude. Like I literally do all this to have these conversations. It's so special to me. And I hope that it never stops. I just hope that I can do this forever. And I don't see any reason why I can't, God willing. But
yeah, you're already 10 years in. Hard to look back now.
Yeah. The creative, and who knows, like painting for now is painting, painting for now is the way. But, the way forward, who knows? Rap shit could go crazy. I'll rap a lot, and then the rap will get old, and then go back to poetry, and that'll get old, and then maybe I'll go do something else. But as long as you are catering to your own excitement, I just think that's like that's how you're going to get to the truth of yourself and uncover more. I hope. I'm banking on it. Literally.
Well, man, I appreciate you. This has been perfect. Thank you for sharing your time.
Dude, keep going.